public comment time.
Coverage begins in 30 seconds.
Oh, shit. Number 13 on the list.
Welcome to the general public comment session of April 2026. Tonight's session is being interpreted into Spanish. Sam or Jasmine, would you please introduce yourself and let our viewers know how to enable translation on their devices?
Yes, of course. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Sam Guzman with the CLC, joining you virtually through Zoom. And along with my colleague Jasmine, we will be interpreting today's meeting into Spanish. Please allow me a quick minute while I give instructions in Spanish on how to access interpretation. Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Samuel Guzmán con la CLC. Y juntamente con mi colega Jasmine estaremos interpretando la reunión de hoy al español. Si se une con nosotros virtualmente a través de Zoom, por favor busquen en su pantalla un icono de globo que dice Interpretación. Oprima ese botón y de ahí seleccione la opción de escuchar en español. Si se une con nosotros presencialmente y está ahorita en la cámara, por favor busque un asistente que le pueda dar audífonos para poder escuchar en español. Muchas gracias and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sam. City Council provides a half-hour general public comment session to hear from the public on city matters, except for any matters that are scheduled to have a public hearing. To maximize time for public comment, council will not offer comments or responses from the dais. Council members or staff may contact speakers following their comment if they raise matters that lend themselves for follow-up. All speakers should begin by stating their names. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak. For those participating in person, when called upon, please come to the podium. A timer on the presentation monitor will display your remaining time. For those participating virtually when called upon, please wait until you are promoted to speaker, then accept the promotion. Turn on your camera if you have one and your microphone. You will see the timer on your screen counting down. Please refrain from profane or obscene speech. Direct your comments to the council as a whole and refrain from individual or personal attacks, including disparaging other speakers' motives.
So
first up, we have
Geraja P. Number 13, so hopefully I get to speak. Maybe change number.
New one on virtual producer. Next up, we have Brittany K. Brittany K.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
I would like to, address the city council as a concerned individual, as someone who's seen the firsthand reality of homeless families in Colorado, as I myself and my family are homeless. I'm asking for more stability. Temporary hotel stays are not working for our family, and it's uncertain because the rates change. The wait list right now for the Connection Center, I've been calling for about 6 months straight. The wait list, I think that if we could address housing issues, wait list issues, especially for families with children, and then especially for families that are like myself. I'm a victim of domestic violence. So I have, something on my background from my ex that prohibits me from being able to find a sustainable place to rent, even though I am low income. So I'm running into barriers, right, with that, trying to support 2 children and pay for hotels and applying for applications. It's a long process. So if we could find a pathway to help victims of domestic violence being able to sustain housing with their children. I can't necessarily do a shelter with my children because my children have mental disabilities and my daughter does have a service animal. So the shelters here don't really take heed with service animals as well. So it kind of puts a barrier on what I can and like where I can be with my family. So I guess I'm just trying to address you guys for like safe, sustainable housing solutions for victims of domestic violence and just unhoused families in general here in Colorado.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have India C. No. Next up, we have Ruben R. Ruben. Next up, we have Paulina C. Paulina. Next up, we have Uterus D. Uterus. Next up, we have Courtney Zeiter. Courtney. Next up, we have Dominic Capisco. Dominic, if you'll accept the promotion.
Maybe it could be fine.
Is it coming, producer?
Not saying anything to try to introduce me.
Dominic, can you please accept the promotion?
No, 8.
If you want to unmute, Dominic, your sound is not working on our side. Dominic? All right, next up we have Josh Steele, or Dominic?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, so hi, my name's Dominic Kepschel. I recently joined with VO as a mechanic. Since starting with them, I've seen firsthand how effectively their approach is, and it's definitely truly a game changer for the city of Denver. VO is bringing a wide range of different e-bikes and scooters as well, supported by 150 W-2 staff, including in-house mechanics and field technicians. Also, but the access program that the state/county does offer, we're ready to launch with that as well, with a 10-day grace period / document upload window, so there is no immediate barriers for those who qualify. From my experience working with the team and everything, we are definitely committed to a higher standard of quality, safety, and reliability. We're proud to work there, proud of what we're doing, and we are fully prepared to roll out our fleet as soon as the contract is approved. And we just, thank you for your consideration and time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Josh Steele. Josh? Next up, we have Moaf.
10.
Next up, we have Brandy Majors.
11.
Brandy, if you'll accept the promotion. Next up, we have Roderick Marshall.
Yes.
Roderick. Next up, we have Jesse Paris.
You gotta promote
Oh, Roderick's here? Okay, Roderick?
Here. Was my name called?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I just wanted to hop
This cool shit.
Recording in
we would
progress.
help with city projects like cleaning the right of the ways and parks. And it was a, fairly decent pay, a little bit above minimum wage. And I was thinking that I don't know if Denver does this or not, but I'll be willing to help out as always, offering my services. And I think that Denver should help with the trash and recycling by hiring the people during the summer at least. Work with a lot of mentees and students in Denver Public Schools, and they could use summer work. And sometimes it's difficult to gain employment, especially these days. And I just want to highlight that I don't know what the budget would be or what it would entail financially, but I just think it would be a good idea to have the city of Denver and county offer an opportunity for our youth to help clean up blight areas and trash downtown and just throughout the community, and help to promote the notion of keeping our city clean and healthy. So that's my thing for tonight. And I thank you guys for allowing me to speak. And as always, I'm going to say, take a tour of the Excel Center in Aurora, in Adult High School. That's where I graduated from Valentine's Day of last year. And on the 20th, we will be having a former student panel. So I'll be attending and taking questions from the current students, like what's ahead and what to expect after you get your high school diploma and things of that nature. So just more positive information, positive outcomes for our our students and our youth in the community. And as always, if you have an event going on in your district, I'm more than willing to participate, especially when it comes to the youth, and keeping them full of positive energy. And you know how it is these days with a lot of negativity that comes from places where it didn't used to, but now it does. It's like an everyday norm. It's hard for people to be positive and think positively. So again, I'm here for that. That's part of the movement. Sorry about that. That's part of the reason why I moved my family to Denver, to be a part of that and help uplift people wherever I go. So again, thank y'all and have a good evening. And thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jesse Paris.
Yes, good evening, member of council. Those watching at home, those in the council chambers. My name is Jesse LaShawn Paris, and I represent for Black Star Action Movement for Self-Defense, Positive Action Committee for Social Change, as well as the Unity Party of Colorado, the Northeast Denver Residents Council, Frontline Black News, Shabaka's Black Experience Enhance, the Revolutionary Agenda, and I reside at the Roach and Bedbug Infested Legacy Loss in Tedderman Watson's district of District 9, defined District 9, a historically Black district of 5 points. And I am officially going to be on the ballot for House District 8 under the Unity Party. I wanted to talk about the Lime contract. I need to extend the Lime contract. I know several of my friends and colleagues that are working for Lime. It has helped to expand their horizons, if you will. They had to work multiple jobs prior to working for Lime, and now they're able to become self-sufficient while they've been working for Lime. So I ask that you extend that contract. Now, the main thing I wanted to talk about is the malign neglect that continues to be perpetuated by the Democratic Party. This is election season. There's a big election in November, the midterms, and y'all gonna want us to go out and vote. But y'all gonna keep lumping us into broad, ambiguous terms such as people of color, minorities, marginalized, downtrodden, underserved, vulnerable, communities of color, all of that nonsense, and we're not going for it. It's a new day on this plantation, and we're not going for it no more. If you want the Black vote, you're going to have to do something specifically for Black people, foundational Black Americans, not minorities, not people of color, not communities of interest, vulnerable, whatever other terminology y'all like to use to describe us and lump us in, immigrants, all of that. Them days are over. You want our vote, you're going to have to do something specifically for us. We're not voting no more just to be voting. Save that for the civil rights generation. This is the reparations generation. And we're going to demand something tangible for our vote. So it's tangible 2026 all the way up to 2100. They're not offering you nothing tangible for your vote. They're not going to specifically acknowledge your people group, meaning foundational Black Americans, descendants of American child slavery, Black people in this city. Don't waste your time voting for them. Thank you.
Next up, we have V. Reeves.
Recording in
My name
progress.
is V. Reeves. I'm an organizer with House Peace Action Network Denver, and I'm very proud to work with Families United in Necessity and Dignity, a group of houseless families who have been meeting regularly, and parents who have been working really hard to determine what the main barriers are to housing and to shelter, and to be able to be a part of the solution. I wanted to give you an update today. We just got out of a meeting with Cole Chandler, who's been recently appointed to the Department of Housing and Stability, and we focused today on shelter. We were able to bring various families to the table to speak on it, particularly people impacted by detention. A father who's now a single father because his wife is currently detained in Aurora, despite having gone to every single immigration court date and doing everything according to process. Brittany, who you heard from, who's been living in hotels for nearly a year after fleeing domestic violence. Yadima, who has been on the shelter wait list for 6 months, yet she had been calling the Connection Center for over a year, and just recently has been reached out to and was unable to accept her shelter because she works nights, and the curfew of the shelter didn't allow that. She's taking care of a 2-year-old whose parents were deported. Francis, who you're going to hear from later today, waited 4 months for shelter when she had a 2-month-old and was on the streets. And now that baby is 6 months and they just recently replaced in shelter. And then India, whose husband is currently detained at GM, whose adult son was deported last year. And those were both 2 big hits to her income. She ended up houseless, is now living with another mom, and she's taking care of 3 little kids. These families had a whole lot of wealth of knowledge to bring up, and they really wanted to focus on the need for privacy and safety for their children. So they talked a lot about how, their concerns with shelters are that you never know the background of the people that are staying there. And when you have young kids, the number one preoccupation you have is this person's intentions pure with my child? And so they were expressing a lot of fear around having to go to a shelter with children based on that. Ways we can protect that is by having privacy, is by making sure that shelters do keep families separate and families safe and have security so that they can make sure that they know their kids are going to be all right. They also talked about food. You'll hear also from Francis, who was in shelter just recently and is experiencing how people are throwing away the food because they are not eating it. It's a huge waste of money. It's the main line when it comes to shelter costs. And so when we're talking about how to cut down costs on shelter operations, we really should be talking about food services. And there was an example at DCC where we did have for a while a fully functioning community supported kitchen that the people in the shelter were able to use to sustain themselves. So we should consider that model. Thank you. Thank you. Next up, we have Rose Valspring. Rose?
Yeah, I'd also like to speak on shelters for houseless families. I know y'all are working on it as fast as y'all can, and I appreciate everything y'all are doing, and I hope y'all keep on that. But I definitely like to hound on the point of definitely we need privacy, like everyone else has been saying. This is a topic like in community discussions I've been in that families keep bringing up. So I wanted to focus on that because that's what the families are asking for, right? And yeah, that's really, really important for a large number of reasons. We have, for one, just to take care of your kids, you just really need that privacy. It is hard to just exist as a family around a lot of places if you don't have shelter, if you don't have refuge. And yeah, it's also just privacy is helpful for all kinds of reasons. And thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Anna Miller. Anna? Next up, we have Yamar R. Next up, we have Francis E.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Francis Echenique. Hi, good evening. My name is Francis Echenique. Bueno, yo me encuentro en el refugio voluntario en América y siento que es un refugio seguro. La única preocupación es la comida. I'm currently staying at the Volunteers of America shelter, and I think it's a safe shelter, but the only concern is the food. Porque muchas personas no comemos la misma gastronomía, entonces hay personas que en lugar de dejar la comida y no agarrar la carne y no eso es algo que no se debería de hacer, porque siento que es un gasto que están haciendo ustedes y las personas no lo ven. A lot of us have very different like gastronomic backgrounds, and we eat different things, and so a lot of the times I feel like they give us food and people take it instead of not taking it, and then it ends up being thrown away, and I feel like it's important because it's an expense on your end. Ahorita estuvimos con una reunión con Paul Chandler y siento que nos escuchó, entendió y va a mejorar las cosas que realmente queremos. Right now, we just had a meeting with, I believe, Colt Chandler, who said that they have a good understanding. Well, it seems like they have a good understanding of our needs and the things that we're asking for. Ojalá que las demás familias que estamos en familias unidas en necesidad puedan recibir también el apoyo que hoy en día mi familia pudo recibir. I hope that the other families involved in Families United in Need can also receive the same support that I've been able to receive. Siento que ustedes, ahorita que están escuchando nuestras voces, el día de mañana sé que van a hacer historia, porque sé que mi hija será una de las personas que dirá: mis padres son inmigrantes, llegaron a un país que no era de ellos y fueron escuchados y fueron ayudados. I feel like in you all hearing our voices, you're creating an opportunity to, have this go down in history. And I feel like my daughter will be able to say my parents are immigrants and we were able to be supported by, this government. Quiero pedir que por favor sigan escuchando a nuestra organización. Bueno, digo nuestra organización porque yo también me encuentro ahí. I say you keep listening to our organization, and I say our organization because I also am a part of it. Familias que estamos necesitando, no solamente somos migrantes que estamos ahí en esa situación, también hay personas que son residentes, que son nacidas aquí y están sufriendo la misma situación. It's not only immigrants that are in need of the support, there's also residents and people that are from here that are finding themselves in the same situation.
Bitch, we've been saying that.
Y les pido también que hagan un programa de trabajo. Yo siento que las personas mientras que estén trabajando pueden cubrir sus gastos y nos van a ayudar a estar como estábamos nosotros sin una vivienda. I also really insist and ask that you work on creating a work program, because I feel like if people are working, they're less likely to be here asking for support day after day. Poder hacer una cooperativa, hablar con los restaurantes, a que le den chance a las personas que no tienen documentos para que puedan trabajar, para que se puedan defender.
maybe a cooperative can be created, or we can even work with restaurants to give people who are undocumented an opportunity to get themselves forward, to get ahead.
De nuevo, bueno, muchas gracias. Espero que mis compañeros también reciban el apoyo de ustedes. Sé que están trabajando con todo esto que hemos estado haciéndoles saber, que a veces ustedes de verdad no se enteran de lo que está sucediendo.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I know that you're hearing me and my colleagues, and I know that sometimes it's really important because you all have no other way of finding out what's really happening.
Hoy en día le doy gracias a la señorita Lee porque por ella pude saber que mi voz es escuchada. Así que gracias, mantengámonos unidos porque hay familias que de verdad queremos trabajar, de verdad queremos salir adelante.
I'd like to thank Ms. Fee because she's really made me feel like my voice is being heard, and I hope that we can continue working to, support people and to help them move forward.
Bueno, sin más que decir, muchas gracias, que tengan buen día.
I have nothing else to say. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Next, is there anyone in the room that came in that was called? I'll start from the top. Daraja B.
Whoever's tuning in, y'all just missed me speaking, but
India C.
I'll be speaking 3 more times tonight.
Ruben R. Paulina C. Eularis D. Courtney, I think, did Courtney speak? Courtney?
I did not speak yet, but I would like to.
Come on up, yeah.
Hello, good evening. Thanks for being here. So, it's been a couple minutes since I was here last. I've spoken once or twice, mostly on topics of relating to composting, which has expanded my mind to the greater picture of what's going on here. And I want to acknowledge that there is a lot going on. There's a lot going on here at our city level. There's a lot going on at the state level. There's a lot going on at our country, greater land, globally. And I think it's really important that I show up here today to continue to encourage you all in many different ways. So that's what I'm going to take my time to do today. And so I want to say hello to every single one of you, and thank you to every single one of you for showing up and doing what you do. I see a lot of work by every single member here. I've seen you in a lot of different meetings and spaces, whether it be in city council or actually out in the community. And I want to, continue to show up alongside of you as part of your greater community. And I know that with a lot going on, there's a lot of different voices in every single room that we go into. And I want to remind us all to find the common thread and what brings us all together. So very recently, I was at a series of different meetings by different groups, and came to my attention that we are in a pivotal point of time for decision-making within your state, within the city, and going forward with the way that we handle both business and resources. So I wrote down this quote because I always seem to forget the figures, but I'm gonna say it now. For every 1% increase in soil organic matter, the soil can hold an additional 20,000 plus gallons of water per acre. So months ago, maybe even a year ago, I don't even know, seems like yesterday, I was at a community meeting between Coresight and between the members of the GES community. And I was there and I had posed a question, and my question was recorded as, quote, can we start rebuilding the native ecosystems with this project so that we can recirculate the water and save resources? The response recorded was, Coresight is required to meet the zoning code standards for the site's design. So fast forward, I'm sitting in these different meetings, and let me remind you, or not remind you, y'all probably don't know this, I am a tax specialist. I've built my career and most of the money that I've made within the tech industry.
Thank you so much. That's your time. Next up, we have Joshua Seal. Josh, going online. Moa? Yeah.
I didn't expect to speak, so I looked over the weekly agenda, actually today's agenda, and I saw the millions of dollars for landscaping. I find it very disturbing that we care about landscaping and then families, immigrant families, refugees are still unhoused. I mean, flowers over humanity is not leadership. I still think when it comes to the homelessness problem that we have, I actually did some research last night looking how much money was spent. The estimate since this mayor was in office, the estimate is close to $1 billion. I mean, and there's nothing to show up. I've been in it for 9 years, and thank God, and I forgot to actually thank City Council Gonzalez and Tara and those who advocated for my housing. But we have a serious problem. Like I'm in the continuing care program. I haven't seen the coalition in 4 months, not once. They do not provide services. The services do not trickle down to, so how are we going to end homelessness? Just logistics, millions of dollars with no oversight. It's got to be something. We've got to show some leadership when it comes to oversight. There's nothing in the charter, I read it many times, there's nothing in the charter that says anything about proclamations. But it does say the oversight, you have a responsibility there. And we need to hold this mayor accountable. I mean, all what he cares is about his perception, creating, it's a false perception. Politics always been about false perceptions, but also politics used to be the art of possibilities. Thank you.
Next up, we have, is Brandy Majors online? Okay, that concludes the speakers for tonight. That concludes the speakers for tonight. Please join us next week. Have a comment written from Thursday. What day? Thursday, April 16th. And we look forward to seeing you next Monday. We have 3 required public hearings tonight. As a reminder, council members need to turn on their video on yes, ma'am.
We have proclamations still.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I actually.
What, baby? What, my baby?
Council will now reconvene from our earlier session. There is no unfinished business from earlier session.
Baby.
There are 2 proclamations being read this evening. Councilmember Watson,
Damn, y'all missed it.
proclamation 05.
Y'all missed me. I went off.
Thank you, Madam President.
Welcome back,
Proclamation
Toya.
number 260512, honoring the life and legacy of Creighton C.B. Jones Jr. Creighton C.B. Jones Jr. was a pillar of Denver's historic Five Points neighborhood, whose life and leadership helped shape the cultural and economic foundation of Black commerce in the city for decades. And whereas alongside his wife of 70 years, Betty Whitaker, he co-founded C&B Cleaners in 1958, building not only a successful small business, but a vital community institution that served as a gathering place, resource hub, and symbol of self-determination. And whereas Mr. Jones embodied a build your own table philosophy, creating opportunity where none existed and opening doors for generations of entrepreneurs, neighbors, and community members. And whereas as president and treasurer of the Five Points Business Association, he served as a trusted connector and quiet strategist. helping broker relationships, support Black-owned businesses, and strengthen the economic vitality of 5 Points during its historic peak. And whereas its business became an unofficial town square where stories, wisdom, and community ties were shared freely, reflecting his role as both a businessman and a steward of a neighborhood history and culture. And whereas Mr. Jones's life spanned and reflected critical chapters of American history, including the eras of segregation, the civil rights movement, and the evolution of Black enterprise in Denver, making him a living archive of community memory and resilience. And whereas he was a devoted husband, father, grandfather, and mentor whose values of integrity, loyalty, and service continued through his family and many lives he touched. And whereas Creighton C.B. Jones Jr. passed away on December 16th, 2025, at the age of 90, leaving behind a legacy that remains woven into the fabric of 5 Points and the city and county of Denver. Now therefore be proclaimed by the Denver City Council, Section 1. The Denver City Council recognizes and honors the life and legacy of Creighton C.B. Jones Jr. and his indelible impact on the 5 Points community. Section 2.
Like right after I called him,
the City and County of Denver shall fix the seal of the City and County of Denver to this proclamation, and that a copy be transmitted to the Jones family.
Councilmember Watson, your motion to adopt
Council President, I move that 260512 be adopted.
has been moved and seconded. Comments by members of council. Councilmember Watson.
Thank you so much, Council President. I'm so pleased to see so many members of the Jones family here tonight. First and foremost, the 5 Points community has been called the Harlem of the West.
Yep.
And the reason why it was called the Harlem of the West was a place and space that Black communities not only felt safe, but were celebrated. It was a place and space where Black communities elevated commerce, family life, recreation in our own communities without having to rely on others to lift us up, to give us a hand, or anything. We led. Mr. Jones and his family have been stewards of that history. They have been stewards of a history long forgotten and now a more gentrified 5 Points. It is my opportunity as the city council member representing Fine District 9, including 5 Points, that at any time, any moment, every day that I can, to work alongside families to elevate those stories, to elevate those histories, so those names do not go unspoken and do not become forgotten. I had a wonderful walk with Ms. Kim Ray as we walked around 26th and Welton, right at the points, and hearing her voice, spoken word, the history of her family, and the importance of the role her family has played on that trip. And it is because of your leadership, your grandfather's leadership then, your leadership now, and that of your families is why we sit here in honor of calling his name and reminding folks of the great legacy, not only your family, but so many African-American families that have long been lost. But hopefully with these types of proclamations,
foundational Black Americans, goddammit,
history and legacy will be remembered.
So when you call us African Americans, they just stop saying that shit. Exactly, the rat infected 5 Points.
I just wanted to say I'm sorry for your loss. You had him for so long and the loss is so recent. And also that from what I know, he definitely passed his values on to his family. We see faces that we know very well around here. And it's pretty beautiful to get to hear about your ancestor. Thank you. Thanks, Councilman Watson.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, roll call.
Councilmembers Alvarez.
Aye.
Flynn.
Aye.
Gilmore. Gonzalez-Pierce.
Aye.
Hines.
Aye.
Lewis.
Aye.
Perrin.
Aye.
Rivera Campbell.
Aye.
Sawyer.
Aye.
Flores.
Aye.
Watson.
Aye.
San Francisco.
Aye. Madam Secretary, close the voting and announce the results.
12 ayes.
12 ayes, proclamation 0512 has been adopted. We now have 5 minutes for the proclamation acceptance. Councilmember Watson, who will you be inviting up to accept the proclamation?
Yes, Council President Kim Ray and any members of her family that would like to join her, you have a few moments to share your thoughts.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Councilmember Watson and members of City Council. On behalf of my family, I want to thank you for this incredible honor. We are deeply grateful to Councilmember Watson for recognizing the life and legacy of my grandfather, Creighton Jones Jr., in such a meaningful way.
Exactly. A for tangibles.
To see his story lifted up by the city of
That's what I said.
Denver
That's what I
means more to our
said.
family than words can actually
Tangibles 2026
express.
to 2100.
My grandfather believed in his community.
I said all the black people in Denver, y'all, if y'all gonna vote, you're gonna vote for something tangible. If you're not getting nothing tangible, don't waste
He
your
believed
time
in the
voting.
5 points. He believed in people and showing up,
Yeah, I know.
lending a hand, and building something that would last beyond himself.
I know them right
To our family, he was a husband, a father, a grandfather. To this community, he was a steady presence, a mentor, and a friend. It is truly humbling to know that his impact is remembered, not just by us, but by the city he loved and the community he helped shape. And I want to also take this opportunity to also honor my grandmother. She wasn't able to attend tonight. Her name is Betty Jones. But for 70 years, she stood beside him as a partner in life and in business and in community. And so much of what he built, they actually built together. So thank you for honoring his legacy and doing so, honoring theirs. So we are so very thank you. Children, we've got 3 generations here, so thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other words?
As my daughter stated,
we just said that. I'm sorry, I'm listening to Afro
my father
at the
built
same time.
some very strong children. We are all leaders, and without his words, one of the things that I can remember him always saying, and I think I was 8 years old, he said, when you get up in the morning and you get dressed and you leave that house, you're to leave an impression, a legacy, and you do your best. He said, if you're going to do no matter what you do, that means even sweeping the gutters of the street, because I didn't realize he was getting up at 7 a.m. in the morning and going down on the 5 points and sweeping the streets to make sure that they was clean before everybody started working. But he said, when you do that, you do your best. You don't do it because you feel like everybody wants you to do it. You do it because you want to do it, and that you want everyone to know that the 5 points meant something. Up until the day he died, he wrote down the 5 points every day. And we did that last journey for him, his last ride. The 5 points is his heart.
Yep.
And he'll never, I don't think, he'll always love the 5 points.
Always.
Because that was his home. That was our home.
Right.
When I tell people, I was raised up I slept in Park Hill.
Yep.
But my home was the 5 points. Because that's where we've been since 1958.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank
They've
you.
been here as long as
Any other last words?
I'm the daughter of Creighton Jones Jr. I have my sisters, my nieces, and my nephews here. And I didn't realize how much my father meant to me until he passed.
Yeah.
And as my sister stated, he and my mother are instilled in our hearts and our souls, in the work we do, in our fingertips and the feet. we don't stop. I don't care how tired we are.
Right.
We still go, and it's because of my parents.
Mm-hmm.
My father was a hard man, and he was strong man.
Oh my God!
He cared about 5 points. He
He
cared about his family, and he wouldn't do anything. He would do anything to make sure that we were fed. No matter what my father did, it was always his best. And it was all he knew. To raise 8 kids, not on welfare, not on food stamps.
Right.
He did it all with his own 2 hands. And I remember he would change tires if anybody could come and talk with him. It was a counseling office as well. And they just talked with him, just somewhere to go. And I remember any time of the day, he would open his doors and let somebody come and talk with him just to hear. 5 points, unfortunately, don't have that now.
Yeah, we don't.
It wasn't the normal mom and pop shop. It was a place to go when you had nowhere to go and no one to talk to. That is what my mother and father built and instilled with us, that we also know no matter what, you can come and talk to us and we all have an ear. So thank you for recognizing my father, recognize the hard work he and my mother's done, and putting this in place for him. You don't know what this means to us. Thank you.
Yeah, may they rest in peace. They're good people.
Hello, I'm Daddy's first daughter at birth.
Power, right?
And I was part of healing, but I was always following him, and I kind of did it, you know, mom did it. And so anyway, I followed everything he do, I always try to get his approval. And I remember he'd get the kids, because we were too young or at school, he would get the kids and then put them to work, whatever he needed around in the back, you know, around the cleaner or whatever, and pay them to, you know, to get them motivated to work. And they would keep on, you know, as they got older. And he would have, like his friends, you know, they need money, and they overloaded with clothes. He would have them help, you know, work. And even retired guys, just to be there, you know. So now, as we got older, people would see us. One of the customers would see us, and then they run down to him and say, "I see your daughter here. I see your son here," but they could never say we did anything wrong. So as you know, they retired, and you know, and I see how hard they work. We would be there past midnight so that he can fix the pipe when something goes wrong, to get the cleaner going the next morning. You know, he can't let the money stop. And so anyway, I called them 80 going on 18 after they had closed the business, because they were in the street every day. I'm calling like, where y'all been? You know, and I'm the parent now. So he come up with all the ideas. He, you know, getting the cleaner, you know, decorated first, and then they got the money from the government to, you know, have everybody can, you know, upgrade the outside to make it really look nice. Because he believed in trying to make everything look right and get our business going in the RCD. They lost money because of the light rail. So thank you guys for helping them, you know, to keep us going. Let me see, what else? But other than that, you know, everywhere I go, it was like he was at the back of my head, you know. Don't do that, you know. Gotta get approved. And so he made me the person I am. He protected me. And then we all go there every Saturday afternoon and after school, helping him, because he believed we're supposed to be there to help.
And the other kids, didn't get that, opportunity. So he always say, honor that father, that mother, your life, live long. And everybody can come to them as a marriage counselor. Why? So everybody come there to get advice and they were always about investing, not just working, They had the trucking, they had the sandwich shop, they had the beauty salon.
Yep, they had all that.
They didn't believe in we should work hard and keep investing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a beautiful
Councilmember
proclamation.
Watson and Parody, would you please read Proclamation 0513?
Happily. Proclamation 260513 is celebrating the 10th anniversary of Prodigy Ventures. Whereas 2026 marks the 10th anniversary of Prodigy Ventures, which has supported young adults primarily from Northeast Denver through workforce readiness programming that prepares them for success in the 21st century economy. And over the past decade, nearly 300 young adults ages 18 to 24 have participated in its apprenticeship programs within craft coffee houses. And whereas Prodigy Ventures has reinvested more than $2.5 million in wages into the local economy through its apprenticeship model, generating an estimated $2.10 in local economic impact for every dollar invested. And whereas Prodigy's 3 craft coffee houses serve as vital community hubs, providing hundreds of community groups with free meeting space each year and fostering a culture that honors diverse lived experiences through intentional relationship building and shared responsibility. And whereas Prodigy Ventures offers a comprehensive 12 to 18-month apprenticeship program in which young adults develop both technical craft and professional skills, while also receiving holistic support services, including access to mental health counseling, one-on-one coaching and mentoring, and job placement assistance. And
whereas Prodigy's programs and spaces are rooted in the concept of spiritual hospitality, creating environments where individuals feel safe, valued, and empowered to be their full and authentic selves. And whereas Prodigy Ventures is committed to investing in the potential of young people, cultivating an environment where individuals can realize their inherent greatness while upholding a shared standard of excellence in both customer experience and craft coffee. And whereas Prodigy Ventures continues to be recognized as a high-quality craft coffee house in Denver and values its long-standing partnership with the City and County of Denver. Now therefore be proclaimed by the City and County of Denver, Section 1, that the Denver City Council recognizes April 2026 as Prodigy Coffee Month in celebration of its 10 years of impact and continued contributions to the community. In Section 2, that the clerk and recorder of the City and County of Denver shall affix the seal of the City and County of Denver to this proclamation, and that a copy be transmitted to Jesselyn, I'm going to destroy your last name, Shahrazad, Executive Director of Prodigy Ventures.
Thank you.
So you can't even pronounce her name right. That's how you know we a goddamn.
Move that proclamation number 260153 be adopted.
It has been seconded. Comments by members of council. Councilmember Watson.
Oh, I have Councilmember Perry go first.
Councilmember Perry.
You just pointed me. So, yeah, I can keep this really simple. I really just am so impressed by the way that this nonprofit operates, and the reason that I have become such a fan is just because I'm thankfully a customer. I am in there every single morning looking for all the familiar faces. My kids go to school across the street from the Global location. I also go a lot to the one on 40th Avenue. And first time I walked through the door was probably a random thing, but then you immediately notice everything about the mission is all over the walls, and you can tell when you're walking into a workplace that people are where people are treated well and where they're proud and happy to work. And so it is the best place to go and chat with the employees because they're great. They're prodigies. They're amazing. And so I've just had a really wonderful time having Prodigy brighten my morning for a very long time. So I'm super tickled to get to co-sponsor this with Councilmember Watson. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Parody. And I would add, before I was in this seat, I would go to the the prodigy affiliate. And I began going to the one in Globeville in the process of being elected to this seat. And the one thing that I always recognized once I hit Prodigy, especially the one in Globeville, every little nook and cranny, there were community members having dialogue. You weren't just there sitting, drinking coffee and eating sweets.
The people
you were there to talk, to engage. I think the last time I was there, a few months back, there were 4 different meetings in different corners, and the office was filled with another community members. That speaks to the importance of this community gathering space, not just a coffee house. You're a place where people feel welcomed, where people feel loved and listened. You're a place to organize, a place to have birthday parties, and to do all the fun things. And so thank you so much for always being that welcoming spot in Globeville and all the other communities that you're in. And congratulations for your 10th year anniversary.
Thank you. Councilmember Hines.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you both for sponsoring this. You have a bunch of us elected officials here at the table. So not only is it a community powerhouse, it is a political powerhouse. I had not heard of Prodigy until Leslie Herod invited me to break bread there and have a cup of coffee. And so we've got a bunch of local electeds here. Certainly, you are a political powerhouse as well. So all the community meetings that you're talking about, your reputation is throughout the city and beyond. So thank you so much for your 10th anniversary. Here's to another 10 years. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Council Pro Tem Campbell.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say Prodigy Coffee House has just been a staple in, I think, community and being able to have a place to connect. I moved our nonprofit organization just about a block and a half away during 2020 off of 40th Street. And it was, I think, a labor of love for Prodigy to stay open and to be able to just work with the young people. I echo the sentiments about just the young people that we met that were working there, and the job training was just tremendous. And I think not only good conversations with those who were, on the counter, working behind the counter, but also those opportunities to meet and just build communities. So congratulations to you in 10 years, and here's to another 10. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers in the queue, Madam Secretary, roll call.
Councilmembers Alvarez. Aye. Flynn.
Aye.
Gilmore. Aye.
Aye.
Iron.
Aye.
Lewis. Aye. Barron.
Aye.
Now they gonna get to public hearing.
Aye.
Sawyer.
Aye.
They got 3 public hearings tonight.
Watson.
Aye.
Madam President Sandoval.
Aye. Madam Secretary, close the voting. Announce the results.
12 ayes.
12 ayes. Proclamation 0513 has been adopted. We have 5 minutes for the proclamation acceptance. Councilmember Watson and Parity, who will be inviting up to the
Ms. Lynn shall resign.
Other guests would be,
Yes,
we welcome them up as well.
Come on, Black kid.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam President and City Council. So excited to be here this evening to accept this proclamation. I'm joined here tonight with some of our apprentices, board members, and staff. And we're just grateful. We see a lot of familiar faces. We see in our shops every day. And it just speaks to how much importance goes into community. 10 years is nothing to sneeze at, not as a nonprofit and certainly not as a small business. We survived COVID, we're working through tariffs, and we continue to rise to the occasion of the growing need for workforce programs, particularly for young adults in Northeast Denver. Prodigy was born out of the realization from a group of educators, some who are here with us today, this evening, who are still staying with us and still committed to this impact, that there is a gap in traditional workforce, traditional work and education systems. We've curated a community that's really rooted in spiritual hospitality, where we're creating a space where folks can truly and authentically be themselves. And you see that every day in the way that the apprentices show up and in the way that our community is welcomed into those spaces, whether it's the free meeting rooms that we are hosting hundreds of community groups every year, or if it's folks in nooks and crannies having important conversations. Again, thank you so much. We're going to have a tremendous community celebration on Saturday, April 25th at 4 o'clock at our original shop at 40th in Colorado. Most of your staff have heard from members of our board and community. We would love to have you join us for that and help celebrate such an important feat. So thank you. And anyone else? Yeah, I knew Michael Guzman wanted to.
Hey y'all, tayo tía, tayo ya te buenas tardes. I'm so glad to come in front of you as a member of the board of directors for Prodigy. Their treasurer is here, supported by the board, and I work behind the scenes with wonderful people who volunteer their time, effort, and their talent and their treasure to make this a reality. But the superstars are our apprentices, and so I just want to say thank you very, very much for honoring our traditions. You know, spiritual hospitality is a particularly unique and focused way of doing things within the Latino and the indigenous community, and that is how we open our doors. It's not just part of the community in a traditionally redlined district where we have suffered injustice. Prodigy brings hope, and that hope is immeasurable in a time where we face so many difficult decisions that we have to make as a community, but Prodigy brings it home. And how much can be resolved over a cup of magic water, herbal tea, when we take a minute to sit back and enjoy each other's company and actually get to know each other. The relationships here are what matter, and we see our young people going forward, representing their communities, representing our cultures, and bringing it home. So to all of you, welcome anytime. Love to see you there, and thank you again so much. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have 3 required public hearings tonight. As a reminder, council members need to turn their video on during the vote. For those participating in person, when called upon, please come to the podium. On the presentation monitor on the wall, you will see your time counting down. For those participating virtually, when called upon, please wait until our meeting host can lift the speaker. When you are promoted, please accept the promotion. Turn your camera on if you have one and your microphone. All speakers should begin their remarks by telling council their name and cities of residence, and if they feel comfortable doing so, their home addresses. They are available. If you have signed up to answer questions, only state your name and note that you are available for questions or comments from council. Speakers will have 3 minutes. There is no yielding of time. If translation is needed, you will be given an additional 3 minutes for your comments to be interpreted. Speakers must stay on the topic of the hearing and must direct their comments to council as a whole. Please refrain from profane or obscene speech and refrain from individual or personal attacks. Councilmember Gonzalez Gutierrez, will you please put Council Bill 260206, changing the zoning classification for 3601 North Monaco Street Parkway in Northeast Park Hill on the floor for final passage?
I move that Council Bill 260206 be placed upon final consideration and due pass.
It has been moved and seconded. The required public hearing for Council Bill 0206 is open. May we please have the staff report?
Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Green from Planning and Development. And I just wanted to start by saying that this is a tough one. So staff has recommended denial and planning board has unanimously recommended approval. So we'll walk through it. You should have documents of deliberation in your staff packet, which walks through planning board's argument, but I'll also try to point out both sides as I walk through the review criteria. So getting into it, as always, we'll start with the request, exactly what the applicant's proposing, and then we'll get into the location and the context, and we'll talk about the process an application's been through thus far, and then we'll get into the review criteria. So starting off, the lot is currently vacant. It's just over 6,000 square feet. It's on the corner of Monaco and 36th. And we're requesting to go from ESUDX to ETUC.
What does that mean?
So what that means, we have a single unit district in the urban edge neighborhood context. And that's a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. So basically right now they can build a house with a detached accessory dwelling unit on a minimum lot of 6,000 square feet. They're proposing to go to a 2-unit district, also in the urban edge neighborhood context, and has a slightly smaller minimum lot size, 5,500 square feet, and this would allow them to build a duplex or a tandem house, and each of those units could have an accessory dwelling unit. This is along Monaco Parkway. It's a designated parkway, so this has a 20-foot setback. This would apply to the current zoning or the proposed zoning. I just wanted to call that out to note it. Getting into the location about where we are exactly in the city, we're in Council District 8, Councilmember Lewis's district. We're in the Northeast Park Hill neighborhood. You can see a big arrow kind of pointing to it there. And as I said, the existing zoning is ESCDX. You can see from this map that it's kind of surrounded by ESCDX as well. There's some 2-unit zoning just to the southwest, and if you went just a few blocks off the map to the right, you'd also see a chunk of ETUC 2-unit zoning. But when we look at the existing land use, there's quite a bit of duplexes in this area and multi-unit in this area. So on the block itself, there are 8 duplexes across the street. There's multi-unit uses. Behind it, there's multi-unit uses. You can see those uses scattered throughout the area. You can see a picture of the vacant lot on the top picture there, a picture of some of the single unit houses. Well, a single unit house that's kind of representative of the single unit houses in the area. Then we have some multifamily across the street is kind of a garden court apartment building and a triplex just behind it.
Yeah.
So getting into the process, the application has been through a standard process. It came in back in September of 2025. Had a bit of a delay, but planning board in February. It was noticed and set yard signs up pretty much that entire time. And then we went to committee on March 3rd. So the applicant does have a letter of support from the Northeast Park Hill Coalition.
Okay.
But we haven't received any other comments from any other of the RNOs.
That's the coalition I'm a part of, y'all.
Neighbors.
I'm a part of that
to do some door-to-door knocking, especially to the adjacent neighbors. And she's here today, so we can ask her about how that went.
Now it's North Park Hill.
And then again, as I said, planning board unanimously recommended approval. I'll walk through a little bit more detail as we get into the review criteria about exactly what they said. Again, I'd encourage you to read those documents of deliberation. Don't put words in their mouth, and I'm sure I won't cover everything. But they generally said that the Park Hill Neighborhood Plan supports this rezoning. Because the Park Hill Neighborhood Plan supports this rezoning, it also meets Blueprint Denver's guidance about how to apply residential low future place types, which we'll talk about in just a minute as well. So getting into the review criteria, as you all know, there's 3 review criteria that we have to find to be true in order to say yes to a rezoning. We'll start with consistency with adopted plans. In this case, we have 3 plans. They're kind of hard to see on the screen, but we have Comprehensive Plan 2040, Big Citywide Plan, Blueprint Denver, Citywide Land Use Plan, and then we have the Park Hill Neighborhood Plan, which was adopted in 2000. So it's quite old. We're going to walk through all of those. So starting with Comp Plan 2040, kind of big picture, it talks about the need for a mix of housing types in all neighborhoods, and that we should promote infill development where we already have infrastructure and services. So kind of at a high level, we think that the application is consistent with this plan. When we dive a little bit deeper into Blueprint Denver, designates this area as the urban edge neighborhood complex, which generally talks about single and 2-unit residential uses. The applicant is proposing a 2-unit district in the urban edge neighborhood context. We generally find it to be consistent with this guidance. When we look at the future place types that Blueprint Denver has, it calls it residential low, so it envisions it to be single and 2-unit uses on small or medium lots, and it talks about how duplexes can be thoughtfully integrated if they're found to be compatible. So again, this is a 2-unit zone district. it's generally going to meet this guidance. But when we look kind of on that same page where it talks about future place low, it has this very specific guidance about how we should apply that guidance to rezoning applications. And it says that 2-unit uses are not appropriate in all areas. And unless there's an existing pattern of 2-unit zoning, that request is going to depend on the small area plan or significant neighborhood input. And the small area plan or that neighborhood input need to show an intent to set a new zoning pattern for the area. So that leads us to the first question. Do we see an existing pattern of 2-unit zoning? So this is the zoning map, and staff looks at it. We see an existing pattern of single unit zoning. Despite there being a lot of duplexes in the area, that's the existing use, it's kind of the current built environment. When we just look at the zoning pattern, we don't see a pattern of 2-unit zoning. So then the follow-up question is, does the neighborhood plan state an intent to set a new pattern for the area? So I have a little bit more on the neighborhood plan coming up, but at a high level, there's about 3 policies that talk about compatible mix of housing types and densities. And then it talks about protecting the single family character in the Park Hill neighborhood. So while it has some language about incorporating a mix of housing types, we don't believe it's specific enough to meet Blueprint's Denver's guidance about setting a new intent for a new zoning pattern in the area, 2 units. So we don't think that the neighborhood plan is calling for a new pattern in the area. And then the second question, is there enough neighborhood input to show an intent to set a new pattern in the area? So we do have a letter of support from the Northeast Park Hill Coalition. We don't have a whole lot of information about neighbors in the neighborhood. We have the RNO letter. We haven't received any public comments. So we don't think that this is enough outreach to again set that intent that duplexes should be allowed throughout the neighborhood. So we do not think it's consistent with Blueprint Denver. I'll walk through planning board's argument here when I get to the Park Hill neighborhood plan, because they have the policies laid out a little bit more. So these are the policies. There's a lot of words up there, but again, I just wanted to show the 3 policies. The first 3 policies talk about incorporating housing density mix in the neighborhood. They kind of talk about it in different ways, but all 3 of them mention that. And then you have that bottom policy that talks about protecting the single family residential character in Park Hill. So when staff is looking at this, you see that it does call for that housing mix in the neighborhood, but when you look at the neighborhood, especially the residential part of the neighborhood in Northeast Park Hill, it already has a mix of housing density. There's areas that allow 2 units. There's areas that allow row homes. There's areas that allow multi-unit. So we think that this plan guidance was implemented as a part of the 2010 zoning code update. It's also worth noting here that before 2010, this whole area was zoned R2 in the Chapter 59 zoning code, which would
recording in progress.
Character in Park Hill reinforces that the uses are kind of separate from each other. When planning board read this, they thought that the first 3 policies there that I listed, the rezoning is very clearly consistent with. And when they talk about that single family residential character, they note that where it says specifically, it talks about rezoning from R3, which would allow a lot more intense multifamily uses, to R2, which would have allowed the duplexes and small scale multifamily. And they said that because it's specifically saying to rezone to R2 down from R3, that those uses, duplexes, small scale multifamily, are actually considered part of the single family character of Park Hill. At least some board members said that. So then, looking at the public interest, does this rezoning further the public's interest. It obviously could further the public interest by adding additional housing options, but most of our plans, especially Blueprint Denver, talk about a citywide approach for incorporating this type of housing into unit neighborhoods, and wants us to consider things like affordability and neighborhood compatibility. So we think it would be more in the city's interest or in the public's interest to implement a holistic citywide approach. And then finally, we have the consistency with the purpose of intent statements found in the Denver zoning code. Generally, it's consistent with most of those. When we look at the specific intent of the UTUC district, it talks about those 2-unit uses and the lot size. Again, those 2-unit uses, Blueprint Denver's very specific about when we should allow those. So because this doesn't apply to that plan language, we don't think it meets this criteria. So with that, we recommend denial based on finding the review criteria have not been met. I'm available for questions. Applicant is here in person. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. We have two individuals signed up to speak this evening. First up, Jesse Paris.
Yes, good evening, members of council, those watching at home, those in the council chambers. My name is Jesse LaShawn Paris, and I'm representing for Black Star Action Movement for Self-Defense, Positive Action Committee for Social Change, as well as the Unity Party of Colorado, the Northeast, now North Hill Coalition, Frontline Black News, Shabaka's Black Experience Enhanced, the Revolutionary Agenda, and I reside at the Roach and Bedbug Infested Legacy Lofts in Darrell Watson's district of District 9, the fine District 9, historically Black district of 5 Points. I'm in full support of this rezoning tonight. As I just stated, I'm a part of the coalition that gave a letter of approval to this. We need more housing options in the city, and having grown up in that area of Park Hill and been a recent resident prior to living in 5 Points, I was tired of seeing that vacant lot. That vacant lot has been vacant for years, so I'm glad to see the city is finally doing something with it. I just want to know exactly what's going to be here. Is it going to be an ADU? Is it going to be row homes? Is it going to be duplexes? Is it going to be a combination of both? Because I didn't really get that from the presentation. It said it allowed for the uses of all the above, but I didn't really get that from the presentation. So if the occupant or the person that presented answer those questions, I would greatly appreciate it. Otherwise, I'm in full support of this. I'll see y'all on the next one.
Thank you. Next up, we have Elizabeth Hennessy.
Recording in progress.
I am an architect and a contractor and the owner of 3601 North Montford Parkway. When we bought this property, we had the intention of building a prototype net zero duplex. That's something that we're kind of into as a construction firm. I've always been familiar with Northeast Denver. I know that Northeast Denver has a strong, healthy component, duplex, multifamily zoning component. I know that because when I moved to Denver many years ago, I lived in a duplex on 32nd and Pontiac. The issue of what happened to the DUC-R2 zoning that was in place between 1940 and 2010 kind of is intriguing. The community was totally built out by 2010, and yet the 2010 zoning ordinance decided to forbid any new duplexes being built in that community. And I just was kind of confused about what happened to duplex. Why were they all of a sudden not worth building? So I did ask around, I got no feedback, and I can only assume that in 2010 that a middle income person could buy a house in Denver. That is not the case anymore. 15 years later, we need duplexes. We need duplexes because duplexes are affordable and it's expensive. Mostly, we need more affordable housing, 2 units per lot instead of 1. I want to point out the 3600 block of Monaco has 23 lots, 8 or 10, depending on your point of view, are duplexes. The lot that I want to develop is a new duplex to the north, a triplex to the east, a duplex to the south, and 2 triplexes across the street. It is difficult for me to understand why adding one more duplex to this mix is a problem. And I think that when you consider how desperately we need affordable housing, the solution is, and will be recommended in Denver's own plan for unblocking housing choice. It is time that we go a little bit easy on the single family zoning. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That concludes our speakers. We have questions from members of council on Council Bill 0206. Councilwoman Lewis, start us off.
Thank you. Thank you. So I see from the existing land use map that there are 17 lots that have either double or multifamily units. CPD's analysis of the existing zoning shows that none of this use is permissible under the current zoning. Is that correct?
It's almost correct. So if you have an existing duplex or if you have existing multi, basically if it was legally established and it's been continuously operated as that use, you can rebuild it just as it was. So you couldn't build it on a vacant lot and you tore down a duplex, you could rebuild the duplex.
Okay, thank you. So we have a bunch of land use that does not correspond to the zoning that is in place now. And so can you talk to me about how we got here?
Yeah, I guess 2 parts. So first, we can rebuild those things. But yeah, the property and all the properties around it were rezoned in 2010. And I have a little bit of information about how that rezoning, what the criteria were for that rezoning. The 2010 rezoning as a whole. So basically in 2000, we had the Park Hill neighborhood plan, which had those policies that I talked about. In 2002, we had a Blueprint Denver citywide plan that called this area single family residential. There is a single family duplex designation in that plan as well. So this was specifically that single unit only recommendation. So this plan came out 2 years later after that Park Hill neighborhood plan. So there was first criteria is adopted plan guidance for the 2010 rezoning. The second was the existing zoning and existing entitlements. And then the third criteria was the existing conditions. So like what was there now, all of those duplexes in this case. So I think taking that citywide guidance of single family residential along with different ways of interpreting the Park Hill neighborhood plan. Maybe they meant that the duplexes should be incorporated everywhere. Maybe they meant that they should have a mix of housing throughout the neighborhood, maybe not all next to each other. And then looking at the existing entitlement, they eventually landed on the single unit zone district, and I wasn't there. Obviously, that's kind of my understanding of how that happened. That was your question. Did I get that right?
No, I think you answered it. So the small area plan mentions the preservation of single family character, and yet the area around the lot are not single family use. The small area plan also states a goal to zone for a variety of compatible housing types and densities. And so how does CPD resolve that contradiction?
Yeah, it's definitely difficult. We talked about this one a lot, as you can imagine. I think you lost the train of your question a little bit. Can you tell me one more time?
I'll read it.
I apologize.
So the small area plan mentions the preservation of single family character, and yet the area around this lot are not single family use. The small area plan also states a goal to zone for a variety of compatible housing types and densities. And so how does CPD resolve that contradiction?
So I think with the compatible uses and types, I think we're reading that plan guidance is more holistic across the whole neighborhood. So there's some places that allow duplexes just down the street. There are some places that allow row homes, so kind of across the whole thing, there's a compatible mix of housing types, but not necessarily integrated. As far as this area not having single unit uses, I'd say that what you can see if you look a little bit more broader at the zoning in the neighborhood, like the areas that were rezoned to 2-unit, like the entire block is 2-unit in those areas. So again, not exactly sure how those got mapped. There's obviously a lot of duplexes on this block, but it looks like just from looking at the map that the rezoning was really focused on kind of areas that were entirely 2-unit to keep 2-unit, and then matching the single-unit zoning that's just to the south in Park Hill for the rest of the neighborhood. But I don't know if that answers your question to your satisfaction.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to figure out how you, I mean, if you look at the map, and this is the area in my district that has the majority of duplexes and multifamily housing. And so it feels like a contradiction, but it feels like a contradiction that we're not addressing in real time. And so I just wonder how you all think about that as you all are making the decisions to move forward a recommendation or to oppose such.
Yeah, I think it's difficult when we have such an old plan. Obviously, there's a new plan coming for the area that will sort a lot of this out, hopefully. But when we have a really old plan with zone districts that don't even exist anymore, we're kind of analyzing an old plan with a new lens, and the plan is just so specific about the existing zoning pattern, not an existing uses. And the Park Hill neighborhood plan is just not specific enough. We have other plans that are so specific that when we land is just, matching what's there now, and hoping that a plan soon will kind of iron things out.
Another question.
Councilmember Flynn?
Madam President, Joe, the near northeast area plan, the NPIs, one part of the website says coming soon, but I understand it's already, the initial scoping has been done, correct? So it's underway.
Yes, that's my understanding. I don't know if it's at a public release.
And that includes.
If you'll just speak into the mic until we have you could totally raise it. We just have a hard time hearing in this room. Thank you. Go ahead.
It sounds like it has been publicly released and the plan is out there. Yeah.
Okay, because the Park Hill plan is 25 years old.
Yes.
It's a little dated, so it needs updating. So I'm glad you're doing that. But the guidance in Blueprint is pretty clear that about establishing a new pattern, what's the intent, what's the process for rezoning. And if this were a year from now, when we have the near northeast plan in place, we don't know what it will recommend here. But in the interim, when the criterion is consistency with adopted plans, I would have to agree with the planning office. So I'm wondering if you could discuss, was this brought up at all at the planning board? The fact that Blueprint says this, but you're voting that?
It certainly was discussed and asked me a lot of questions, as you'd expect. I think they just found that the Park Hill neighborhood plan didn't support it, and therefore Blueprint Denver supported it. They just disagree.
Okay. I think that's all I have in formal questions. Thank you.
Councilman Lewis?
Yeah, just to more specifically for you, Councilman Flynn, the first near northeast advisory committee is actually on the 22nd. So we're here just to provide you with updated information. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. No other questions? Public hearing is closed. Comments by members of council on Council Bill 0206.
Yes, sorry, thank you. Coming a little slow. So I'll be supporting this because I believe that the rezoning meets the plan guidance of Blueprint 2040 and the small area plan, and also meets the existing neighborhood context of the neighborhood, given that there are 17 lots with this kind of use in the immediate area. The small area plan specifies that the residential character of the neighborhood should be preserved. The rezoning accomplishes that, and it preserves a use type that is already present in the area and in keeping the residential context. Additionally, while the small area plan does not state that single-family areas should be preserved, that same recommendation of the small area plan also mentions that in order to accomplish the goal, higher intensity zoning ought to be downzoned into the zoning that converted this use type at the same time this small area plan was passed. And so in other words, the area plan seems to endorse the use of multi-unit residential types such as a duplex in order to keep the residential character of the neighborhood. And so I'm in favor of this rezoning, and I encourage my colleagues to support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Councilmember Alvidrez.
Thank you, Council President. I've had a very similar issue to this in my district previously, and it is very hard to understand how we can have, in my case, it was 2 houses on 1 lot, and they wanted to put a duplex. So what you said about some of these houses being able to rebuild wasn't the case for this instance. And I think that when our residents are out in their neighborhood and there's duplexes everywhere and they can't build a duplex, it's very confusing. And when you talk about the existing context of a neighborhood and we can literally go and see duplexes, it makes these votes even harder. And I understand better now than ever why you recommend no on this, but it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make common sense to me. And that's concerning to me when I think about the context of the neighborhoods and the fact that this is the kind of density people want. So we struggle with that context. People talk about density and they think about high rises everywhere, but then we do the gentle density and that's illegal as well. And I think that's very frustrating for the people. So I'll support Councilwoman SNS in voting yes, just as I did in my district when this came up. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilmember Flynn.
Thank you, Madam President. It may very well be that the Near Northeast Plan will recommend a change here in this area, but I think we have to wait for that. And in the meantime, if we don't stick with our criteria, one of which is consistency with adopted plans, and the consistency requires that we, when there's a rezoning, I don't have it in front of me anymore, is there an intent to establish a new pattern? We don't know that yet. We don't know that yet because we haven't done the broad community outreach on it yet. And so if this were coming here a year and a half from now, it might be appropriate, but I don't feel that we should prejudge that and approve a rezoning that, in my view, is not consistent with the guidance and blueprint. And so I agree with the staff, and I'll be a no vote on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Tars.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll be supporting. This one I was comparing to another one that we had a few months ago where we had this difference of opinion. And in that case, there were literally no other duplexes, not just on that block, but in that area. And I find that to be the biggest difference from what I see here. I also find it really ironic that the one letter of opposition came from a nearby neighbor who is also a duplex. So I'll be supporting. Thank you.
Councilmember Watson.
Thank you, Council President. I want to start saying first, my first home in Whittier was a duplex. And I just think the opportunity from unlocking housing choices to, I don't believe the adopted plans are consistent. And when it's inconsistent, when there's inconsistency, I think there's an opportunity to look at the current Parkfield plan that asks for this level of density, and all of the development around there has that similar density. And so I will be supporting this. I think it's a good use of this space, and we're coming Northeast plan to make sure we have some consistency within our area plans. So, thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilmember Hines.
Thank you, Madam President. Before I was elected, I sat on Blueprint 2019, and part of the sausage making process, you see the couple hundred pages in each of these plans, and sometimes you see things that seemingly contradict other pages in the same plan. And so, I'm not sure that I disagree with CPD. It's that maybe I'm interpreting some of the language in a slightly different way, and so that's both the magic and the curse of having 200 pages in a citywide plan And often another 200 pages, when I was elected, we were in the middle of the East Central Area Plan. There's also a couple hundred pages where you could find things that said yes and no at the same time. And in many ways, it intentionally had some room for interpretation, but so that is both the blessing and the curse. But that is, we have 3 charges: legislation, the budget, and land use. And so hopefully we're kind of leaning into those 3 charges, including land use. As an aside, I wouldn't make decisions based on the intended building, because this is about the zoning of the parcel, not about the building itself. But I would think it's very much in the public interest, given our climate right now, that we have more architects that are interested in net zero homes. So thank you for that. That's not a criteria that I'll use to judge, but I want to compliment you nonetheless. Thank you. I'll be supporting it. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilwoman Sawyer.
Thank you, Madam President. Thanks, CPD. I so appreciate you. I'm going to vote with you guys and say no tonight, but I'm just going to be very honest with you. I hate that for the reason that everyone, here has talked about. But I will say, we have a property owner in District 5 who came, we have an area plan, the near Southeast area plan, which recommends duplexes in specific neighborhoods, and she wanted to build duplexes and was told no for other reasons. So we have to be consistent for the people who come in front of us, even when we don't want to, because just because this project is absolutely fantastic and we all want it to be built for all the reasons we've talked about, it is not fair to the other people who come in front of us who get told no, because what they want to do is inconsistent with the adopted plan. And I will also just say, I wish there was someone from the mayor's office here so I could stare them down and point out that this is why we desperately need updated area plans for 100% of the city, because Blueprint Denver says one thing above all else. It says, look to the small area plan. And this small area plan says no. And that is an absolute shame, but I have to be consistent in my vote, even though I don't want to. So I'll be a no tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilwoman Perry.
Yeah, I will just say quickly that just as in committee, I was persuaded by reading the details that are on one of the slides here, but as planning board was that actually when we talk in these documents about the single family residential character of Park Hill, that is intended to include duplexes, which are single family homes. So in context, especially the language that talks about when it says protect the single family residential character of Park Hill, it goes on and says specifically extend R2 zoning to areas zoned R3. R2 is 2 unit. So that's basically what persuaded me. It's just that reading along with the other factors and public good, public interest and all that. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other members in the queue, Madam Secretary, roll call.
Councilmembers Alvarez. Aye. Flynn.
Aye.
Gilmore. Gonzalez Gutierrez. Aye. Hines. Aye. Lewis. Aye. Perry. Aye. Madam Aye. Thank you. Sawyer. Aye. Suarez. Aye. Watson.
Aye.
Madam Gonzalo.
Aye. Madam Secretary, close the voting and announce the results.
10 ayes.
10 ayes. Council Bill 0206 has passed. Thank you all very much. Councilmember Gonzalez Gutierrez, will you please put Council Bill 0207, changing the zoning classification for 2625 East 3rd Avenue in Cherry Creek on the floor for final passage?
Move that Council Bill 260207 be placed on final consideration and do pass.
It has been moved and seconded. Required public hearing for 0207. Please open. May we please have the staff report?
We might have some technical difficulties, so just give us one moment.
Yes, Tim will help you. We can phone a friend.
Oh God, these motherfuckers. Ugh. Oh God, Lord have mercy.
Standing right there. Just all right,
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Will Prince. I will be presenting the staff report for 26 East 3rd Avenue. A request to rezone from CCN with conditions to CCCN 4. This evening, I will review the request, the location context, the process, and of course, the review criteria. Some background on this property. Again, the request is to rezone from former Chapter 59 CCN with conditions to Denver Zoning Code Urban Centers, Cherry Creek North, 4 stories. This property is a corner property with just under 19,000 square feet and is currently office and retail, and the request is to rezone to redevelop as a mixed-use option that includes condo housing. Continuing on to the location and the context. This is located in Council District 5 with Councilmember Sawyer. And is located in the Cherry Creek Statistical Neighborhood. As for the existing zoning, again, this is CCN with conditions, former Chapter 59, and the surrounding areas are predominantly CCCN 4 as well as 5. We have GRH 3 to the north, a few PUDs, as well as CMX 5. And for reference, the existing zoning is related to Ordinance 2007-00225, related to the existing former Chapter 59 Cherry Creek with conditions, which is in your application packet. Also, this site is applicable to the Hanmer Parkview Plain. This being a 4-story district, it would still comply with this view plane. Continuing on to the existing context with land use, again, this is commercial retail, which is the majority of 3rd Avenue, and we have multi-unit residential to the north, some mixed use throughout, and then also public park and school nearby. Looking at the building form and scale, we have the subject property here at the bottom right. We can see a 2-story commercial building. Along 3rd Avenue, we have various sizes, but we have a common 1-story commercial nearby, as well as the 2.5-story townhouses that we see to the north. Continuing on to the process, this received its informational notice at the end of November. It was noticed for planning board in January and had its public hearing on February 4th, where it had unanimous recommendation for approval.
It was held at the CPH committee at the beginning of March and was noticed for this hearing March 21st, and we are here today for the City Council public hearing, April 13th. As for public engagement and public comment, the applicant has done public outreach to the surrounding area. This includes one RNO letter of support from CCNA. They have also worked together for a neighborhood agreement. It was also included as part of the packet. And there have been 5 comments in opposition, 2 from the same person, a total of 4 people altogether in opposition, stating concerns of height, traffic, and buffering in green space. There have been a total of 8 comments in support. And then also we did receive a request for a protest petition packet that was made, but it was not received in time to complete the service to provide the packet in time for the deadline 1 week prior to this hearing. The requester was informed of this, but they were also informed that they may continue to submit comments or stand up for the hearing. Excuse me. Continuing on to the review criteria. As with all applications, I'll review the 3 criteria for review, starting with consistency with adopted plans, and starting with comprehensive plan 2040. This meets several visions, and the proposed rezoning furthers comp plan 2040 by enabling a mixed-use development at an infill location where infrastructure is already in place, and will allow for the increase of additional housing and commercial opportunities to improve the vibrancy and economic vitality of the commercial corridor and surrounding neighborhood. Looking at these visions individually, Vision 2, strong and authentic neighborhoods, meets 2 goals in particular. Goal 1, create a city of complete neighborhoods, and Goal 2, enhance Denver's neighborhoods through high-quality urban design. Vision 3, connect with safe and accessible places, meets Goal 3, to maximize the public right-of-way to create great places. And Vision 4, economically diverse and vibrant, meets Goal 1, to ensure economic mobility and improve access to opportunity. And then lastly, Vision 8, environmentally resilient, meets Goal 8, to clean our soils, conserve, and grow responsibly. Continue on to Blueprint Denver. This site is identified as urban center for its neighborhood context. This context contains high-intensity residential and significant employment areas, and typically contains a mix of uses with good street activation and connectivity. Continue on to Future Place. This is identified as a community center, which has a mix of office, commercial, and residential uses. Buildings are larger in scale than local centers and oriented to the street and other public spaces, and there is a strong sense of urbanism. Heights in Future Place type, in this Future Place type, are originally 12 stories, but we'll review the more detailed criteria in this Cherry Creek North plan. And then lastly, Future Street type, East 3rd is a Main Street collector, and Clayton local. As for the growth area strategy, this again is identified as community center and corridor, which we anticipate 20% of jobs and 25% of housing by 2040. And there are some additional Blueprint Denver policies that we would like to highlight for this rezoning that are implemented through this, including General Policy 1, promote and anticipate planned growth in major centers and corridors and key residential areas connected by rail service and transit. Also, General Policy 3, to ensure Denver zoning code continues to respond to the needs of the city, highlighting Strategy A to rezone properties from former Chapter 59 to the Denver zoning code. The remaining 2, Housing Policy number 8, to capture 80% of new housing growth in regional centers, community centers, etc. And then lastly, Design Quality and Preservation Policy number 3, create exceptional design outcomes in key centers and corridors. Moving on to the Cherry Creek Area Plan from 2012. This site is highlighted in the red boxes for these maps that proceed on the next page. But this has been identified as areas of change, and then also the Cherry Creek Shopping District. This, the shopping district sub-area has 2 additional goals. Goal 2, make reinvestment economically viable in the entire district. And Goal 4, in particular for this site, transition from higher buildings along the 2nd to lower buildings along the 3rd. Continue on with the Cherry Creek Area Plan. Future land use map identifies this as town center, which includes a mix of uses for housing, commercial, office, and hospitality. And then maximum building height, this site is identified as 4 stories. So based on all those information from the 3 plans, we find it consistent with both Comp Plan 2040, Blueprint Denver, and the Cherry Creek Area Plan. Continuing on with the remaining criteria, we believe this will implement public interest by allowing a mixed-use opportunity in the commercial corridor for housing and additional commercial uses, especially near transit and other amenities. And this is also consistent with neighborhood context, zone district, purpose and intent, and will meet the regulations of CCN 4. So from the staff report and information shared, CPN recommends approval of the application, finding all review criteria met. Happy to answer further questions, as well as the applicant is here in person as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We have how many members of the community letter?
Jesus.
She's been here for
Oh my God, 11 people, guys.
speakers. So let's go ahead and get started. Trent Ambler.
I'm Trent Ambler. I actually own and live directly across the street at 324 Clayton's. I'm just to suggest that you guys vote to support. I'm in favor of this rezoning. I think for several reasons. It's an old building. It's old zoning, and it's as is kind of a problematic property. The way that the parking lot spills out into the alley, the way traffic flows, there's a blind corner around there, foot traffic and vehicle traffic. Also, it's unique in that it's inconsistent with pretty much all of the rest of Third in its image. There's been several recent new zones on Third, 2 CCN4, CCN4, sorry. The Mendocino Farms building is, I think, the most recent one that was redeveloped. These projects, that one is office. These guys, I believe, are going to go more residential. But these projects actually enhance the neighborhood. They bring new use cases, new restaurants, new retail. Specifically, if they're going to go residential, it's going to bring residents to the area. So I suggest, yes, I'm in favor.
Thank you. Next up, we have Rick Murphy. Sorry if I didn't pronounce your last name correctly.
No, you pronounced it perfectly. Thank you. Thank you to the council. My name is Rick Murphy. I'm here on behalf of the Clayton Court Townhouse Association, which is the HOA for the 7 townhomes that are directly to the north of the subject property. Also with me is Mr. Scott Robinson, who owns the townhome that is directly to the north of the property. He was going to speak tonight, but I guess there was some issue with the sign up. So if the council would allow him, he would like to speak as well. But I'll proceed with mine now, 2.5 minutes of time to just state the position of the Townhouse Association, which is that the Townhouse Association is certainly in favor of development and improvement of properties nearby and in the neighborhood. But the Townhouse Association would like to consider and for the City Council to impose a reasonable condition on the development. And that relates to the current zoning, which was approved in 2007, which allowed for development of this property, probably in a very similar way that the current developer would like to develop it, but with the preservation of a 29-foot setback, essentially from the northern property line. Under current CCN 4 zoning, it would be a 10-foot setback that would be required. So what we're talking about is essentially a 19-foot setback, additional setback on this approval as a reasonable condition. The reasons for that are that while overall the context of Cherry Creek and Cherry Creek North is that more and more has been developed, more restaurants, more housing or condo housing anyway, has come to the area. In this specific spot, the property borders townhomes to the north. It borders Bromwell Elementary School to the northwest. And it's a unique portion of Cherry Creek where the context of the neighborhood is really defined by the elementary school and really defined by the residential neighborhood to the north. And if this development is allowed to go all the way to that 10-foot line, then it's going to severely impact the traffic flow, particularly during pickup and drop-off time for the school. It's also going to impact the neighboring property owners who purchased their homes in part in reliance on the fact that they knew that this condition was present for the potential development of this property, that 29 feet would be maintained. If that's changed, then it sort of deprives these property owners of the benefit of their bargain. This is an upzoning from its current condition and would allow a lot more density, a lot more height, and impact the solar bulk point, particularly with regard to Mr. Robinson's property, which is the one directly to the north. So we would request that the City Council
Recording in progress.
Thank you. And for the individual who'd like to speak, if you want to go back to our council secretary, the one with the computer, she can help you and add you to the queue. Next up, we have Jesse Paris virtually.
Yes, good evening, members of council, those watching at home, those in the council chambers. My name is Jesse LaShawn Paris, and I represent for Black Star Action Movement for Self-Defense, Positive Action Committee for Social Change, as well as the Unity Party of Colorado, the Northeast Denver Residents Council, or North Park Hill Coalition, Frontline Black News, the Revolutionary Agenda, Shabaka's Black Experience Enhanced, and I reside at the roach and bedbug infested Legacy Loss in the Fine District 9, Boston's District of District 9, the Fine District 9, historically Black District of 5 points. And I am also a candidate on the ballot for House District 8. I'm going to ask the usual questions that I usually ask when it comes to these kind of rezonings. What is the AMI level for this housing? Cherry Creek, I'm guessing it's going to be at least 80% to 110 AMI. Has there been a traffic study done? Has there been a community benefits agreement signed? And has there been a parking study done? If someone could please answer those questions, I would greatly appreciate it. All right, I'll see y'all on the next one.
Thank you. Next up, we have Daniel Nichols.
Recording in progress.
Just really answer questions. Our team is going to kind of answer everything and give the presentation, as well as city staff pretty much said everything that we wanted to. This process has been about a year and a half now, public outreach, and I've met with most of you and hopefully answered a lot of the questions. Met with the neighborhood association, the bid, steering committee, and try to answer every question and try to work with as many people as possible. So, I appreciate your time on this. We hope to have your support on this, and any questions you guys have during the process, happy to answer.
Thank you. Next up, we have Melinda Humphrey.
Hop back to follow from everybody. Hi, good evening. My name is Melinda Humphrey. I'm a current resident and homeowner at 250 Columbine Street, and I have been for the past 12 years. I've lived in District 5 for over 26 years, so I'm very familiar with this property that we are discussing this evening. I'm here to support, to state my support for the rezoning of 2635 East Third Avenue. Allowing this property to move into the Cherry Creek North mixed use brings the property into alignment with the current zoning framework used today throughout the Cherry Creek North neighborhood. The rezoning would improve clarity, predictability, and consistency in how the property can be used and developed in the future. Currently, the Cherry Creek Dance Building is no longer serving its highest and best use, and the rezoning is the first step towards giving this corner of Cherry Creek new life. And new life on this corner is great for all residents and visitors of the Cherry Creek North neighborhood. The current owners of the property have prioritized community engagement from the beginning of their rezoning efforts. They have gone above and beyond to communicate transparency with nearby residents such as myself and within the neighborhood groups. They've shown their commitment to being good neighbors and long-term stakeholders in the community. And updating legacy zoning parcels into the Cherry Creek North Zone District is a logical and necessary step in the future of the neighborhood, and would ensure that consistent rules and predictability in development patterns have been shown across the district. So thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. Thank you for your time and your consideration. I am in support of the rezoning efforts. Thank you.
Next up, we have Blacc. Next up, we have Peter Wall.
Good evening, council members. Peter Wall here on behalf of the applicants. Happy to answer any questions you all may have this evening regarding our community engagement process. There's a couple folks online that signed up online to speak, but I don't think they're able to make it. One is Stephanie, the longtime owner of Cherry Creek Dance. She's owned the property and the business since 1993. Wanted to convey her support for this rezoning tonight. And the other is Daniel Lewis, who is the adjacent property owner to the west across the alley, who also wanted to have us convey his support as well. And again, here to answer any questions you all may have.
Thank you. Next up, we have Lou Raiders virtually. Lou?
Yes, thank you, Madam President and Council. My name is Lou Raiders. I live just in the block north of the subject property at 444 Clayton Street in Cherry Creek. And I have been involved in zoning matters in Cherry Creek for a long time. I'm currently the chair of the zoning committee for Cherry Creek North Neighborhood Association. We take these rezonings very seriously. We do a tremendous amount of outreach through the registered neighborhood organizations. And in this case, we even flyered all of the neighbors at the townhome complex across the street. We had meetings set up. We did enter into a good neighbor agreement. That was a question of one of the speakers. And it was a community benefit agreement that addressed what would be the common concerns that were expressed by the opponents, including making sure that this property was developed in a way that gave extra consideration to those townhomes, including that the setbacks, if this is residential, those can be utilized. If it's commercial, those setbacks are not. This is a situation where the new zoning will meet a GRH3, meaning that there's increased setbacks and then step backs. So we have greater breadth for distance between the buildings. We also asked for higher and more robust landscaping to help separate. We asked that the retail on the main level would be on the corner of Clayton and 3rd, so it would be set back a little bit from the residential portion of the neighborhood. So, and these are conditions that we agreed to with the understanding that this developer who knows Cherry Creek very well, they've been in this family business of developing in the neighborhood for a long time. They're trustworthy. They agreed to those conditions. They signed that community benefit agreement and have worked very hard to make sure that the process was very inclusive. I do believe that the condition that was on there was not for future. It was for a potential expansion into basically a performance portion of the building, which never occurred. So the additional area that they're talking about, this 29 feet, was never even needed because they never did make the change that was being asked for at that rezoning. So I believe that we have thought to carefully address the concerns of the entire neighborhood and specifically those in the immediate proximity of this property. So we have taken this out to the neighborhood. We strongly support it, and we encourage council to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Caitlin Ponder.
Good evening, Madam President and Council. My name is Caitlin Quander. I'm the Land Use Counsel to the applicant. My address is 675 15th Street in Denver, 80202. As you heard, the applicant did extensive outreach to neighboring property owners, tenants, and residents. This included multiple meetings and presentations to the Cherry Creek North Neighborhood Association, and we appreciate their association vote and also the letter of support. And thank you to Lou Raiders, who just spoke. She kind of covered everything I was going to cover. As she noted, because of some of the concerns raised by the townhome owners to the north, the neighborhood association requested and we agreed to enter into that development and community benefits agreement. This is signed by both parties and it'll also be recorded and run with the land. Honestly, the Raiders kind of covered a lot of the conditions that are within it, so I will not repeat myself, but we really did spend a lot of time thinking about how can we mitigate any concerns related to those townhomes to the north that have that GRH3. It's a protected district, so you have a setback and then that upper story step back to really decrease that. And one of the association's points was that if you use those patios, it can kind of be noisy towards those homes. So one of the restrictions is that we cannot use those upper story setback patios for any kind of commercial, like if it was an office outdoor patio, it cannot be used in that way. And so that restriction would run with the land to try and kind of mitigate any concerns of noise or
doing a whole lot of white splaining, huh, y'all?
I would also note that it includes a partnership with the town homeowners to the north to underground the utilities that are along that alley. So as part of their construction, if the townhomes want to join and kind of underground all the way up, we can make that happen. Good neighbor construction practices, regular presentations and continued communication with the association as the design evolves. And then I'll just note that there is in Cherry Creek North a design review board. This project would go through that process as it typically does. So there is that additional level of high quality design. I will stop there, but certainly available to answer any questions about the community benefits agreement or the kind of historical zoning and conditions and the reasoning. Again, the Raiders touched on that history too, so I didn't need to. We believe it meets all of the criteria and we request a vote in yes in favor.
Used to be a black area, y'all rules.
Our last speaker
They
for the
kicked all the black
evening is
people out when
Scott
they found
Robinson.
gold there. Now it's like a
Thank you very much, Council. I appreciate all the work.
affluent area of town. It's very expensive. That's why I was asking about the AMI level.
Homeowner.
Yeah, this shit is not going to be affordable at all.
There's a few things that they have done a lot of outreach. They have done a lot of things, but it feels like there is a process here that is flawed.
Because I asked you questions.
When I say that, I appreciate
exactly. Some folks already made their decision. Exactly. It's just there for theater. Yeah. Exactly. They get mad when I tell them that too. I'm like, you already got your minds made up before you come in the chamber.
Lou Raiders had it done. But I got to tell you, when I bought my property in 2017, there was an ordinance that I read that said there's a 29-foot easement, not exactly an easement, but it basically said that. And it said nothing will get built here. And it said it runs with the land. It said it runs with who owns it today and who will own it in the future. And you're changing that. And that's not fair to homeowners who buy certain pieces of property with existing things that are showing what it is. And there's a few, I mean, the person who's the president or the chair of the planning board is the attorney who's, presenting for the applicant. It just feels like we're on grease slides, and I don't have any place to go with this. It just doesn't feel right. What I would like to make sure that you understand is that when we bought these properties, it had this there, and it showed it. I'd also like you to understand that what we're asking for is the barrier that's currently there, and that barrier, because it's a stop zoning, it's not going to take very many feet off of their total development. And I would love it if they could tell me exactly what that was. But if you took that 29 feet, because the first, 10 feet plus the next 15 feet, you're not going to get on levels 3 and 4 anyway. So there's only a 4 foot difference for 105 feet. So 800 square feet are towards 3 and 4, which is the most valuable
Yeah, court
for them.
cases.
They
City
probably
council
don't even care
decisions
about
have
it
already
in the
been
first one
made,
because
exactly.
retail never works and nobody likes having to build it because they can't do it as well. And so what we're asking for is a very minimal thing relative to the whole development. And I'd like you to consider that, and I'd like them to consider that.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we have questions from members of council? Councilman Sawyer?
Thank you, Madam President. Question, I want to talk about the waiver.
Sure.
So the waiver is existing in the current zoning, and it is for that 29-foot buffer zone between the parking lot that is the current Cherry Creek Dance parking lot and the townhomes. This is the first time during this rezoning process, was the first time I've ever heard that the reason that waiver exists is because there was planned development for the Cherry Creek Dance site that was going to be like a recital area, and then it never happened. Do you know where that came from? Do you know anything about that?
39.
Well, first, just to clarify, it's conditioned. It's not a formal.
Sorry, condition.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
But as for the development history, that's, I don't know further beyond that other than the historical back.
Okay, Peter, do you know? Thank you.
Yeah, Peter Wall on behalf of the applicant. We know about that from kind of two sources. One is Lou Raiders, who's been working on zoning issues in Cherry Creek North for a very long time. So trust very much in Lou and seeing that condition come into fruition in 2007. And then also from Stephanie herself with Cherry Creek Dance.
Property owner.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so is there?
So the area, yeah, it used to be black, y'all rules. It
in
used to be black
moving
indigenous,
to
and they kicked all the
Cherry
black
Creek,
people out when they
the
found
current
gold
Cherry
there
Creek zoning, the
on the banks of the
CCCN
Cherry Creek
zoning
River.
that covers everything else inside the Cherry Creek Business Improvement District area, which this is. Was there discussion about potentially adding that waiver, keeping that condition to this zoning? What does Blueprint say about that?
Well, with the CCN district, the standard setback for rear is 0.
Once they found gold, there was a wrap. They kicked all the black
As for
people out
beyond that has not been discussed or
and started
not
building
come up through
these
the process
high-rise
of the
condominiums.
application or the rezoning process. I don't believe there's anything.
There is in the community
This
benefits
is like
agreement.
back in the 1940s.
In the community benefits agreement, but regarding Blueprint, we don't have visions or goals related to that specifically.
Okay, Peter, maybe you should just come closer. Instead of having to walk all the way back up. So in your community, no, you can come all the way to the mic. I'm asking you this question now. So because you were the ones who negotiated the community benefits agreement, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. So if this 19 feet, which is what we're left talking about here, is not in the condition is not remaining in the zoning, but it is addressed in the community benefits agreement. Is that right?
It's not, we're not adding that addition. There's a 10-foot that's in zoning, and then there's the step backs that go with the CCCN4 zoning. That additional 19 feet is not addressed. What is addressed is that 10 feet that you have, that separation from the protected district. We have enhanced landscaping standards to actually create additional buffering between our building and then Mr. Robinson's property that he owns to the north of us.
Yep, we developed it.
But does not limit, correct?
I believe that's accurate, correct.
Okay, correct. So define enhanced landscaping. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, I probably will defer to Caitlin. You can give me the exact language, but it's vegetation that's above and beyond what code requires, and particularly from a height and growth standpoint, and also making sure that it's well maintained. The goal was to actually create additional privacy between the 27 feet of the back of the building, which is that's how high you can go, and that's the first step back. So they actually create some additional separation between the two, but giving that additional privacy, and it was done so in order to add some additional green vegetation we have to maintain in the foreseeable future.
That was my next question, is who's gonna maintain it? Because that current 29 feet is not maintained. It's,
That's why I wanted to be very clear on that and not maintaining it.
okay, thank you.
And Caitlin Ponder, the only other thing I would add is that that landscape plan with the taller shrubbery, enhanced landscaping, that plan needs to be submitted to the Cherry Creek North Neighborhood Association or reviewed and approved by them before it's implemented. So they can certainly comment and, want a different type of tree or something taller, and we would work through that with them.
Okay, great. And then Caitlin, one other, I think, additional question for you. Do you have a sort of draft basic architecture design of what's being built there, or are you just, which you do not have to under our zoning code rules, come with a design and present it here? Are you just at this time asking to move this parcel into the Cherry Creek North zoning, but without a specific plan yet in place?
And I'll maybe have Daniel come up and he can talk about the current status, but they have Shears Atkins as the architects and have done some kind of preliminary massing. And that's what was shared with the Cherry Creek North Neighborhood Association in those meetings, but I think that's about where they are.
Okay, great. Daniel, did you have anything you wanted to add to that then?
I mean, I
Wait,
think,
no, you gotta come up because there's
sorry,
people online,
right,
so you
right.
yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's one of our kind of public outreach things as well. I mean, the two kind of options right now for us are office and residential, and I think that what we've heard from the neighborhood and from the community is that we want more residential in the area. And so right now, because we didn't know which direction this was going to go, we didn't want to spend the money and take the time to really create a in-depth plan yet. But the concept is residential, and that's what we're on.
Yeah, he still got me on.
Really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember
I'm
Flynn?
in the queue though.
Thank you, Madam President. Will, was there any discussion, and if I had read through the whole
They just
staff
gonna be doing
report,
a bunch of white splaining
and I didn't read
for
through
the
the whole
next.
of those ordinance that Mr. Murphy sent to us in his written comments 2007, by which it looks like there's a restriction running with the land that in 29 feet will not be built on. Was there any discussion at planning board or at CPD about with the applicant that says you can't build on this? Because it seems to me that this request meets the criteria and is consistent, but there is this restriction. It's not a matter of the rezoning. The rezoning doesn't remove the ordinance, but there's an ordinance that was passed. I'm looking at it here. So,
Yeah, from some of the planning board discussion and just general discussion, we believe that the condition runs with the zoning, not the land. It's tied to the zoning.
so the city council in 2007 passed an ordinance that said no permit shall be issued except in strict compliance with the aforesaid reasonable condition. Said reasonable condition shall be binding upon all successors and assigns of said owner, who along with said owner shall be deemed to have waived all objections as to the constitutionality of this reasonable condition. So I don't believe if I vote aye on this, that I'm overriding law that passed 19 years ago. Explain that to me.
We have Nate Lucero or an attorney. Can I phone a friend? Nate, are you with us?
50-50.
Or John, do you see an attorney online? Okay. Nate, will you accept the promotion?
Yes, hello, members of council. They just promoted me. Sorry for the delay there. Nathan Lucero, Assistant City Attorney. So the question, Councilman Flynn, just let me repeat it, and you, if I got it wrong. You're asking about the ordinance which speaks to the reasonable condition that was placed on the property when the property was rezoned previously, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So now we're in front of council, or this application is in front of council to change that zoning. So Denver is very unique in that it allows zoning with waivers and conditions. And in this case, it had a condition that custom zoning is now there's now a request before council to change that zoning. And the present application before council does not have a condition attached to it. Does that answer the question?
I think so. I still have a problem saying this vote removes that condition. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hines?
Thank you, Madam President. Nate, I don't even know where to look. I'll just look over here. If we're voting on land use, I tend to agree with Councilmember Flynn that I think it meets the condition. Like how critical, and I wonder if, I'm trying to decide if this ordinance, which Councilmember Flynn read part of, how critical is it? I'll get a camera somewhere. How critical is it for this, for us to consider this? I mean, in some ways, I think it might not even be worth considering. Either it is or it isn't. I still think it meets the criteria whether this ordinance is attached or is removed based on our vote. Do you understand the question?
Councilman Hines, thanks for the question. So I think the best way to think about this is that the ordinance which Councilman Flynn read from is a zoning ordinance for this property, and it is a custom zoning. So think of it as a zone or a PUD zone district. Council sees those from time to time and changes the zoning to a standard Denver zoning code zone district on a fairly regular basis. We have a similar situation here where the zoning is a zoning with a condition, which is a custom zone district, and now council is being asked to consider rezoning the property to a standard Denver zoning code zone district.
So thank you, Mr. Lucero. So when we add conditions, those are actually ordinances. We're adding law to and it's not just a right, we are actually passing a law that effectively changes the zoning. Am I getting that right?
Whenever you approve a rezoning, council adopts an ordinance, and yes, that becomes the law for that property. Whatever property is covered by the rezoning, they now have a new zone district, and they must comply with the standards and regulations for that zone district. So yes, tonight, if council approves this zoning, it will be approved by an ordinance, which changes the previous ordinance. And that's, in your legislative process, you amend and adopt ordinances all the time. It's really no different.
Got it. Thank you. And as the council member that represented Cherry Creek for my first 4 years, there's a lot of PUDs happening in Cherry Creek, and CCCN in many ways is its own little special entity as well. So thank you, Mr. Lucero. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. I have a question for Christopher, I think, the last speaker. Scott, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Do you live next door?
I own it, and the idea is to move back in after it gets redone.
That's not my question. I asked you a simple question. Do you live do you go tonight when you drive home and your ballot, does your ballot go to that?
No, I'm 327 St. Paul.
Okay. Thank you.
I've owned it since 2017.
Got it. Thank you. Do you know other questions from members of council? The public hearing is closed. Comments by members of council on Council Bill 0206. Councilmember Sawyer?
Thanks, Madam President. I do think that this fits all the criteria. I am concerned about the existence of this 29-foot parcel. I understand, certainly understand Mr. Robinson and other neighbors' concerns about it, and I think that that's fair. I also think that When you look at the map that we were shown, this is one parcel that is cut out of what was always meant to be the boundaries of this CCCN zoning. And so the reason this wasn't rezoned at the same time as everything else was because of this condition that was associated with the land. And how it got there and why it got there is one of those lost to Denver legend sorts of things. And we can't function based on Denver legend. We have to function as council members looking at the 3 criteria that we are provided and the information that we are provided and make a determination based on that. And so I do think that it fits this criteria. I do want to say thank you, particularly to the Cherry Creek North Neighborhood Association and the work that their zoning committee did in partnership with the property owner to hammer out a good neighbor agreement and a community benefits agreement. I think that addresses a lot of the challenges that I had with relations to that 29-foot condition that was on the land previously, and I really appreciate their work in that. And so I'll be supporting this tonight. Thanks.
Councilmember Heights?
Thank you, Madam President. Only bit I'd have a Councilmember Sawyer is a thank you specifically to Ms. Raiders. Not that she's underselling herself, she was a land use attorney. So in my first term, we created a good neighbor agreement that was something like 80 pages, where normally good neighbor agreements are 1 page. And so I just want to thank her for her diligence in leading the zoning committee for Cherry Creek North. CCNNA has a strong, very experienced leader with her at the helm. So that helps me, in addition to doing my own independent research on the Good Neighbor Agreement, having her at the helm just helps me recognize that it is a strong agreement that does factor into the conversations that we've already had and the communities had. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. I'll also be supporting this tonight, and I'll state the reason why. Most people know I love land use. I've rezoned my whole entire neighborhood for ADUs before they became popular, and it was via ordinance. I have worked on 4 overlays. I have the Sunnyside Extravaganza, which are 2 separate overlays. I have a Highland overlay. I have the Bungalow overlay, and all of those overlays are all via done ordinance, and they have to be read into the record. They're not something that runs with the land. They can be changed because they are ordinance. And that's something that I had to learn really early on when I got elected, was if I wanted to change land use policy, what was the mechanism that I used? And it's via ordinance. And so if this was a deed restriction, if this was a different tool that was established to get this 29-foot setback, I would actually honor that. I 100% honor when things are use a different tool, but this was via ordinance. And in 2010, we changed our whole entire city code via ordinance. It wasn't via anything else. It was via ordinance. We went from former chapter 59 into the 2010 zoning code via ordinance. So I'll be supporting this because that's our role as land use commissioners, is to change things, land use via ordinance. What's interesting is the Good Neighbor Agreement will actually run with the land. That's not an ordinance. That's actually recorded via another tool that we have in Denver, and it's actually recorded with the clerk and recorder, and we have nothing to do with that. That's a separate third-party agreement. Both people sign it, and then it gets recorded with the land. So I'm very attuned and understand which tools we have in our toolbox and feel very comfortable moving this forward. I believe it meets and exceeds all the criteria. Madam President, Madam Secretary, roll call.
Councilmembers Avivan.
Aye.
Flynn.
Aye.
Gilmore. Gonzalez Gutierrez.
Aye.
Hines.
Aye.
Lewis. Harrigan.
Aye.
Rivera Campbell.
Aye.
Sawyer.
Aye.
Torrance. Aye. Watson.
Aye.
Madam President Sandoval.
Aye. Madam Secretary, close the voting, announce results.
11 ayes.
11 ayes. Ordinance 0207 passes. Thank you. Councilmember Gonzalez Gutierrez, will you please put Council Bill 0208, changing the zoning classification for multiple properties in Bear Valley, College View, South Platte, Harvey Park South, and Marston on the floor for passage?
I move that Council Bill 0208 be placed upon final consideration and do pass.
It has been moved and seconded. Required public hearing for Council Bill 0208 is open. May we please have the staff report?
Mr. President, I'm Libby Glick with Community Planning and Development, and I will be presenting the rezoning or the presentation for the Far Southwest Legislative Rezoning. So first we'll go through the overview and then the proposal for this entire package, the process, and then we'll go through the existing zoning and the proposed zoning by neighborhood, and then finally we'll go through the review criteria. So the Far Southwest Area Plan was adopted in December of last year. It outlines the vision for the neighborhoods of Harvey Park South, College View, South Platte, Bear Valley, Fort Logan, and Marston. It's located in Council District 2, and Councilmember Flynn is also sponsoring this rezoning. So now we'll go through the proposal. So this rezoning proposal focuses on implementing key land use recommendations that are found in the plan, including complete community centers, so making sure the areas of Federal, Evans, Sheridan, and Wadsworth have high quality design and better connectivity, making sure the industrial districts support new and existing businesses, and then finally making sure our parks are easily accessible. So again, this entire package is separated into 3 categories: centers and corridors, industrial districts, and then a park property. And that's kind of how this presentation will be set up. The first piece of this package is the centers and corridors. And as a part of this, we're proposing to rezone Federal, West Evans, the Sheridan Shopping Center at Sheridan and Evans, and then the Bear Valley Shopping Center at Sheridan and Hampton from old code districts in the former Chapter 59, suburban mixed use 3 stories, suburban mixed use 12 stories, and then community or commercial corridor districts to SMX 3A and SMX 12A. So these are suburban mixed use districts in our A series, and I'll explain what that means on the next slide. And then the last corridor, Wadsworth, will go from mostly old code properties to suburban mixed use 3 stories. So the A series, basically the left-hand side is what you can build today along Federal, Evans, Sheridan Shopping Center. So you could do a drive-through, the building setback, there could even be parking between the building and the street. And the right-hand side is kind of more of the development that you would get under the proposed rezoning under the A series. So this is an example of the shopfront building form. It does not allow, or the A series does not allow the drive-through building forms. It also requires parking to be located behind the building. So now the second piece of this rezoning package are several industrial properties along the South Platte River between Evans and Jewel. So these are areas where the guidance is value manufacturing, which is where residential uses are not compatible. So the proposal is to rezone from an industrial mixed use district, which does allow for residential uses, to light industrial or IA, which would not allow for any new residential uses. And then the last piece of the package is rezoning the Union and Dudley Park. This is a little park in Marston that retains single unit zoning. So just rezoning that to our public park and open space zone district. So now I'll go through the process. So this application was complete at the end of December. It went to planning board at the beginning of February, and we're here before you today for the city council public hearing. So planning board, they unanimously recommended approval of this rezoning, and there were several property owners that spoke in opposition to the rezoning. They were concerned about what a potential rezoning would do to their property. And I think some staff was able to speak with many of them after the hearing to kind of explain about our compliant language in the code and how it does allow for businesses to continue operating as they exist today. We also are proposing a grace period with this proposed rezoning. So there are currently several site development plans that are under review. There are two that are, complete redevelopments. And so those that are included in the grace period need to have submitted for formal site development plan approval prior to the rezoning application, so prior to December 29th, and they need to receive approval by October 13th. And otherwise, they will need to comply with this updated zoning. And then for public comments, I received two comments from those that work at gas stations about the flavor ban. And so I did explain that that's a separate action from this rezoning. This rezoning is not going to change the flavor ban that's in place. And then we received an email in opposition on the industrial sites. And so this particular owner was concerned that there's not a strong enough market for industrial users, and with new development comes new infrastructure improvements. And he was concerned that in his mind, because there's not a strong enough market for new industrial businesses, that there would never be any infrastructure improvements to this area. And then we also received an email from a property owner in Bear Valley who had concerns over not allowing the drive-through building form anymore. So for public engagement, that was done concurrently with the Far Southwest planning process. So staff attended workshops, focus groups, we reached out to key property owners and presented to the advisory committee. We were able to compare the evolving plan recommendations with this potential package to ensure that the plan guidance informed the rezoning. And then once the formal rezoning was submitted, postcards were mailed out 2 times to both property owners and tenants. So in total, it was actually over like 10,000 postcards. And then signs were posted at 3 different points through the process. So now we'll go through by neighborhood, the current zoning and then the proposed zoning, so you can get a closer look at it. So we'll start in College View South Platte. So this area includes the industrial properties and then Evans and then the eastern portion of Federal. So the industrial properties currently have IMX3 zoning. Evans is largely SCC3 and then SMX3 and some old code along Federal. The proposal for the industrial areas is light industrial or IA, and then SMX3A, which is that A series that does not allow the drive-through building forms along Federal and Evans. Now moving to Harvey Park. So this includes the Sheridan Shopping Center and then the western portion of Federal. So current zoning is SCC and old code properties. And the proposal is to rezone these to SMX3A as well. So now Harvey Park South. So this includes the properties west of Federal, but not the Loretto Heights campus, and then the eastern portion of the Bear Valley Shopping Center. So there's one property that has SMX12 zoning, and then it's largely old code, and then SCC3X and SCC3. And so this area is proposed to go to SMX12A and then SMX3A. So Bear Valley, this includes 2 properties along Wadsworth that are SCC3X, and then the western portion of the Bear Valley Shopping Center that's also SCC3X and then some old code. And the properties along Wadsworth are proposed to go to SMX3, and then the Bear Valley Shopping Center is SMX3A. Okay, so now finally Marston. You might notice that we didn't have any in Fort Logan. There's just not as many commercial centers or corridors in that area. I think it's largely residential, and so there just didn't happen to be any rezonings in that neighborhood. But for Marston, this is mostly along Wadsworth, and then the one park property is in this neighborhood. So along Wadsworth, it's mostly old code properties, and then like a couple that are SCC3 and SCC3X. And then the park is currently a single unit or SSUD. And Wadsworth is proposed to be rezoned to SMX3 and then OSA for the one park property. All right, so now I'll finally go over the review criteria. So there's 3 review criteria that must be met in order for rezoning to be approved. It needs to be consistent with adopted plans, further the public interest, and be consistent with the neighborhood context, zone, district description, and purpose in the Denver zoning code. So the first plan is the comprehensive plan. In the interest of time, you can find more about how it meets the strategies in the comprehensive plan in the staff report. I'll just talk about Blueprint Denver in the far southwest area plan. So Blueprint Denver, the future neighborhood context for this area is largely suburban. All of the districts within the centers and corridors that are proposed are in the suburban context. The plan guidance does have federal designated as the urban context, and we are proposing the SMX 3A district or a district in the suburban context for federal. And that's because we just don't have an existing district in the urban context that doesn't allow the drive-through building forms. For that, you have to include the active centers and corridors design overlay, which the guidance in the plan is really more about limiting drive-throughs and doesn't talk as much about requiring active ground floor uses. And so for that reason, we went with the SMX 3A. And we do think that it meets the intent of the urban context and that it is going to be more pedestrian friendly. And then the industrial properties are in the district's context, which does allow for industrial and campus uses. So the future places for these centers and corridors are mostly community corridors, regional center, community center. There's one residential property that's attached to a more commercial property. The industrial area has value manufacturing guidance, and then the park property is parks and open space. There's a variety of future street types, including commercial, mixed use, and residential. So most of the mixed use, the SMX districts are proposed where there's commercial or mixed use street types. And then the growth area strategies are regional centers, community centers, and corridors where the SMX districts are proposed. And then the districts is where we anticipate more employment growth compared to housing growth, which is what the industrial properties are designated as, and then the park property is all other areas of the city. And then because this is such a large rezoning, we had to look at the equity concepts found in Blueprint Denver. So that includes access to opportunity, vulnerability to involuntary displacement, and then housing diversity. So again, this is a large area, but the scores range from 2 to 4 out of 5 for access to opportunity, with the lowest scores being in access to transit. And the highest scores are in access to centers and corridors and access to healthcare. So, rezoning, especially the old code properties, will allow for an increase in density, which may bring more amenities to this area. And then for vulnerability to involuntary displacement, College View South Platte and then Hardy Park South, the eastern portion, are the most vulnerable to involuntary displacement. And while we're not rezoning any currently residentially zoned properties, bringing these former Chapter 59 properties into the Denver zoning code will make the incentive heights applicable to those sites, which could provide more affordable housing in the future. And then finally, for housing diversity, the scores range from 1 to 3 out of 5, with College View South Platte being the most diverse. And the MX districts allow for a variety of residential uses. And then finally, for Blueprint, this rezoning will further several strategies found in the plan. It will rezone properties from the old code into the Denver zoning code. It will implement plan recommendations through a city-led legislative rezoning, and it will ensure an active and pedestrian-friendly environment in our centers and corridors. And finally, for climate guidance, this will foster more walkable places, especially by limiting the drive-through building form on many of this. Recording in progress. The future context and the place types, those are the same that are found in Blueprint Denver. So we'll just talk about the specific strategies. And so for centers and corridors, there's guidance about how areas along Federal, Sheridan, Wadsworth, and Evans should see new businesses, homes, places to dine and shop. Specifically around Federal, Sheridan, and Evans, auto-oriented buildings should be avoided. And then for Federal, this is where bus rapid transit is proposed, so the usage should really support that. And again, buildings should front the street, have parking located behind the building, and auto-oriented forms such as drive-through should be limited, which again is why we're proposing that suburban mixed-use A series that does prohibit the drive-through building form. And Evans is similar in that it talks about how there should have a mix of uses and parking should be provided behind buildings that front Evans. Again, similarly for Bear Valley, it should provide, or the Bear Valley Shopping Center, it should provide a mix of uses, be more accessible, be more pedestrian friendly, and again, locate parking behind buildings. And then for South Wadsworth, this is where, again, it should have places where people can shop, live, and gather, but while also ensuring that the area is easily accessible by car. So this doesn't have the same guidance about limiting drive-throughs, which is why the proposal for this area is to suburban mixed use 3 and not a district in the A series. So for the industrial properties, these are value manufacturing areas where the focus should be light industrial with limited commercial and no residential uses, which is why the proposal is to rezone from mixed use, industrial mixed use to light industrial that will not allow for any new residential uses. And then finally, the one park property. So again, guidance to make sure our parks are easily accessible. This is an existing park. We're just making sure it is right zoned. So we also believe this rezoning is in the public interest and it implements policies in the comprehensive plan, Blueprint Denver, and the Far Southwest Area Plan, and the SMX and SMX-A districts will provide more modern zoning standards and promote a more pedestrian-friendly environment, especially compared to what exists today. And finally, staff finds that it's consistent with the suburban, industrial, and open space context, and is consistent with the intent of the mixed-use, light industrial, and public park zone districts. So finally, all 3 review criteria have been met. That concludes the staff presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one individual signed up to speak this evening. Trustees?
Yes, good evening, members of council, those watching at home, those in the council chambers. My name is Jesse LaShawn Paris, and I'm representing for Black Star Action Movement for Self-Defense, Positive Action Committee for Social Change, as well as the Unity Party of Colorado, the North Park Hill Coalition, Frontline Black News, The Revolutionary Agenda, Shabaka's Black Experience Enhanced, and I reside at the roach and bedbug infested Legacy Loss in Darrell Watson's district of District 9, Fine District 9, and I'm also a candidate on the ballot for House of Representatives for District 8. So all I'm getting from this presentation was there's just going to be a bunch of storefronts, and it allows for the drive-through fronts, options for these properties. I mean, there's a lot of things we could be discussing. There could be housing on these areas. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that we prioritize, but that's not the point of this rezoning. So based off the criteria, it meets the criteria. So y'all gonna approve it anyway. So ain't nothing I can tell you that's gonna change your mind on this. So y'all have a good evening. I will see y'all next Monday.
Thank you. That
Recording in progress.
08. Madam Sire, Councilman Sire.
You're all good.
Right here, come off of the.
You're all good. Thank you, Madam President. Question for Councilmember Flynn. I know that there was a parcel that didn't fit into the right zoning. Was that for this rezoning? It was like a McDonald's parcel that I think is that a different one or is that this one?
That's one of the ones here.
Okay, and how did that end up shaking out?
I'm so sorry if I'm interrupting. I thought you were talking about maybe the food truck.
No.
There's a,
Okay.
Well, now I want to know more about it. Hold on, let Flynn answer this one first.
That's in the southwest.
Also, I'm hungry. When are we going to this food truck?
Councilwoman, that is a sort of a unique situation where the original King Soopers there that became an Albertsons, that became a Walmart Arc and Nelson Arc store on the corner of Sheridan and Dartmouth, southwest corner. There was an agreement back in the 60s when the McDonald's went up just to the east of it that nothing vertical could be built forward of a certain line. And the owner was concerned, and let me correct me if I get this wrong, And I really appreciate all the work that you went through with the owner. The concern was that if it were to be redeveloped, they could not comply with the new zoning because they can't build any closer to Dartmouth as the primary street, because it's probably right now about 60 feet off of Dartmouth. But that has to remain open and flat so that people can see McDonald's from Sheridan Boulevard. But the interesting thing is the building itself has a Sheridan Boulevard address. So I think Libby and the CBD crew came up with some concepts to show to the owner, met with them, and I met with them to show that you could redevelop it within this new zoning, even if you can't build forward of that east-west line toward Dartmouth.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Yes, you did. And the existing structure, which I don't think is actually that old. I think we looked it up and it was from like 2011 maybe.
2011, the original King Soopers and Albertsons was scraped and they put it up for Walmart.
And they can continue to use that same structure for different uses in the future as well. Because that existing structure takes up most of the area that where they can be built based on this private agreement that exists. But they could push it. There's room closer to Sheridan that could help them meet. And there's even, I believe, a detention pond there, but the setback is was from the pond is what our staff that reviews these plans, and that wouldn't cause a problem for them either.
And that was a concern because the setback from Sheridan was X and the detention pond was there.
Yeah.
So, but the setback is from the end of the detention pond.
Got it. Okay, so there was a resolution. It is included here,
yes,
but there is, but the issues that were surrounding it have been sorted out to the best of our ability at this time.
Yes, it's included in the rezoning. I don't know that the owner's happy with it or satisfied with it, but I have not heard back from them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions from members of council, the public hearing is closed. Comments by members of council on 0208. Councilmember Flynn.
Thank you, Madam President. That was one of the comments I was going to make, was to thank the CPD group, Libby and Liz, for all their very diligent work on it, because it's an incredibly diverse district with so many different characters. When you get the industrial area along the river and all the way over to the Marston Reservoir and Grant Ranch and those areas, just a widely diverse area, and the intentional application of the districts that are in our code to match the intent of the plan and to implement the plan's guidance. I think this goes a long way. This is like the last step in what started out as the far southwest plan, except for what's to follow, of course. But these are the easy wins, quick wins. There's more work to be done later. It'll have to be done by my successor, whoever that may be. But we have a good plan in place that will guide that person in any changes that come. What I really like about some of the districts that were included in this rezoning, for instance, the Bear Valley Shopping Center. When I moved here 45 years ago, the Bear Valley Shopping Center had a ADNF. It was like U Hills, right? It had an ADNF, it had duck walls, whatever that was at the time. And it was an indoor mall, and it's undergone like 3 different redevelopments since then. And now we have a Home Depot and the new King Soopers over there. And so the next time that happens, and I know that since it's been done 3 times, that there will be a 4th time. I don't know when that'll happen, but when it is, there's guidance in place that the community wanted to see more a relationship with Bear Creek, which runs right behind it. And right now it's sort of treated as that's the loading dock area on both sides of Sheridan Boulevard. Wouldn't it be nice when it redevelops if there are cafes or seating areas that take advantage of the nature, just the natural environment that you see in Southwest Denver, that you might not find in Mayfair or some other neighborhood in the city. And so this allows them to do that by orienting things toward the street and having the parking behind instead of the parking along the street and the commercial in a sea of parking. The approach on Wadsworth Boulevard is a little different. I can see a day when what Jefferson County is doing on its portion of Wadsworth down near Southwest Plaza,
The Denver portion is just north of Southwest Plaza. And I can see a time when the multifamily that's been built on the underutilized commercial lots around some of these shopping centers starts to occur in Southwest Commons or Westlake Greens or Plaza on the Green rather, and some of those other commercial areas that are in Denver, but are vastly underutilized. And so, and then the last thing I'll mention is the OSA at the park property that is zoned for single unit is only about as wide as from this end of this table to where you're sitting. It's a trail that goes from Union Boulevard up to Stanford, and so it's zoned single family, even though you can't build single family on it, and it's just also a dedicated park. But it was somehow missed. So this isn't the result of the plan. This is the result of we missed it when we rezoned all the parks citywide that did not have OSA zoning. And so I'm happy to see that included in here too. If only because I could stop answering all the phone calls and emails about what are we doing in the park. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Councilwoman Torres.
Thank you. Just apologies for interjecting during the Q&A. I thought you were asking about the food truck on Federal Boulevard that was out of compliance because of the zoning that it had, and it had been operating there for like 15 years. That'll come with the Southwest Area Plan legislative rezoning, but I'm fully in support of this one as well, and so just wanted to clarify. Because I've had burrito tacos there and I've seen that. Thank you.
Councilwoman Parity.
Yeah, I just, we went over this in committee, so we talked a lot about it there as well. But I appreciate this kind of like really detailed work by our planning staff. And I just, this kind of thing before you, before being elected to this kind of role, or I suppose if you're the kind of person that goes and gets a degree in planning or something, it is like hard to imagine the amount of like detailed attention to every little piece of the city that our planning department really gives. And so I just am very, very impressed by this. It's great to see stuff coming out of former Chapter 59, which you guys continue to just, hammer away on every chance you can. Bless you. That's really all I want to say about it, other than I also really appreciate on some of the corridors the attention paid to continuing to move away from drive-throughs and, get buildings that are closer to the street, have the parking behind, and makes neighborhoods that are more walkable, better for kids and all that stuff. That's something we're also just moving forward little by little throughout the city. So great work to everyone involved. Councilmember Flynn, you too. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Madam President.
Yeah, thank you. These are so important. I love the plans that come through, and especially the zonings. Yeah, I think that's so important. So I'll also be supporting this tonight. And Secretary, roll call on Council Bill 0208.
Councilmembers Alvarez.
Aye.
Flynn.
Aye.
Gilmore. Aye. Gonzalez Cadenas.
Aye.
Hines.
Aye.
Parity.
Aye.
Romero Campbell.
Aye.
Sawyer.
Aye.
Suarez.
Aye.
Watson.
Aye.
Madam President Campbell.
Aye. And Secretary, close voting now to result.
11 ayes.
11 ayes, Council Bill 0208 has passed. On Monday, May 11th, Council will hold a deliberative public hearing on Council Bill 0289, including zoning classification for 1057 South Gaylord Street in Washington Park with a reasonable condition, and a required public hearing on Council Bill 0392, changing the zoning classification for 5101, 51 through 5115 North Milwaukee Street in Elyria, Swampscott. And on Monday, May 18th, Council will hold a required public hearing on Council Bill 0431, authorizing a moratorium on data centers. Any protests against Council Bills 0389 or 0392 must be filed at the council offices no later than noon on Monday, May 4th, 2026. And any protest against Council Bill 0431 must be filed with the council offices no later than Monday, May 11th, 2026. There being